We just had a teaser for Return of the Ancients expansion and its complete overhaul to just every single thing in the endgame, complete endgame overhaul. The Runes of Aldur League with a, frankly, somewhat confusing amount of crafting and systems and things in it. It kind of keeps going. And then we've got like the Kalguran skills that work across weapons, the extra looking Ascendancies, and some insane uniques and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, it's kind of easy to talk about what's not part of 0.5. So with that very elegant segue, let's do that first. So I think some people definitely had an expectation or a hope that there was going to be a new class or a new weapon type here, swords perhaps.
Unfortunately, it's just the case that making a class is something that takes longer than a single cycle. So yeah, it was never going to be on the cards for 050, unfortunately. But
so it wasn't even that it was moved in this case.
No, it just wasn't. It just isn't something that we can do in that short amount of time. So it's going to have to be the next one before we're able to get.
Well, last time you guys teased like the druid and the huntress beforehand.
Exactly. Right? So it's kind of funny seeing everyone like this. Like probably the mistake we made was having a sword in the teaser for the breach stuff.
I thought it was a fishing rod.
yeah. So no one thought about that, but it's just kind of funny.
It is a shame, but it seems like you guys have kind of. Well, you keep raising the bar on yourself as far as class design is concerned. Like,
and it's not like we're not working on it in the background, right? Like that is definitely happening.
I've been seeing a little bit of work going on there.
We're simple people from New Zealand. Like swords, they're advanced technology that we haven't quite gotten yet.
So we just don't understand.
We're trying to learn how they work.
Just about to get on the map, aren't you?
There's like a straight line. There's like some metal. These are complex things.
There's a lot to figure out there. But do you care to speak at all, like kind of what your plans are in that regard as far as like classes and?
I really shouldn't, just because it'll spoil the reveal for that will come.
Not exactly,
some of the time,
but like, what are you kind of hoping towards getting, like from 0.5 onwards, in the lead up to ExileCon in terms of that? Are you hoping to get like all of the classes in the game, just one or two more or something like that?
Well, so I think that what the main focus is going between 050 and 1.0 is going to be more about like improving what we have, like polishing everything, and 1.0 is where you're going to get the like the big new content update, like that's going to include the Acts 5 and 6, it's going to include like class stuff, it's going to include like all that sort of thing, because really ultimately the main goal of what of early access is like make sure that all the systems that we have in the game are good. Right, so we need to make sure the end game is good. We need to make sure that all of the the skills, just the way that combat is good, and like all the various things, like like even stuff that isn't good yet, like Ascendancy trials, right? Like there's going to be stuff that we need to do before 1.0 to get good, and so like that's kind of so long as we can get that stuff, then I think people trust that we know how to create like an act at this point, right? Like so that isn't exactly something we need to test per se, So really what we need to do now is like assuming that people are happy with the end game that we've released in 050, that will mean that we've kind of checked all the boxes of stuff that we need to know, and there's still stuff that we need to improve, and like that'll happen between 050 and 1.0. But like that's the main thing we need to be sure of. And then once we've got that, it's like now we can get the big update, the ridiculous update that is 1.0 ready.
And I heard you mentioning that recently as well, that you don't feel like you really need to get the last acts in for testing.
No. I mean, like we know how to do that. It's one of those things that look, people saw in. Like we know what we're doing when it comes to that stuff. It's just
the plan's obviously to get like those last acts in, finish the story, and have all that come out at launch
in 1.0 exactly. And that'll be the launch
conclusion to the story then. Exactly. So you have done though one extremely gigantic update here for Endgame, and it seems like you've done a lot all in one expansion. And you've got this plan to like kind of do a little bit of like some other stuff in the interim. So why did you go for this route of trying to do so much all in one instead of spreading it out over say a couple of expansions?
So in retrospect, maybe we should have spread it out, but honestly the reason is because we wanted to actually make it so that like we wanted to deliver a patch where like this is what we expect the end game to be. Like this is the template for what leagues look like when they're in endgame, and that kind of thing. And I feel like if we'd just done a couple of them, it wouldn't have really got that across. Like it needs to be like, once again, this is what endgame is, and it really is fulfilling a lot more of what we had hoped for in terms of feeling like a world that you can explore, that there's things everywhere and that kind of stuff that we had wanted for. And the other thing as well is there were just like a few things about the current endgame, right? It just didn't really give you goals in the right way. Like you get to endgame, you don't know what the hell to do, and a lot of players just leave right there. There needs to be the case that when you get there, like there's objectives, there's things, that feels like there's actually a storyline there, this kind of stuff, in order to entice players to actually go further than the campaign and actually get into endgame. So I think that if we hadn't have done all of the leagues at the same time, it just wouldn't really have kind of gotten across what we're really going for there.
And it sounds like the plan now is to be able to focus on a little bit more polish in the lead up to
absolutely.
ExileCon as well.
So I mean, we plan to have some more leagues, but they won't be like content like mega expansion type leagues. Like it's more like kind of like the 1 month event type things that we've done, and that's really just because we want to be able to. We still don't want to do mid league nerfs, and so to be able to do all the balance changes we want to do, because there's a huge amount of balance still to do. In order to do all that stuff, you still need to have an economy reset. And so what we'll probably do is more event type stuff, like remixes of existing content, but also adding stuff where stuff's missing. So for example, like we still have a lot more uniques we need to make, especially like mid-game uniques, so that kind of stuff. Like we now believe we've got the standard of where a unique needs to be in PoE 2 in terms of like, and it's like way more than what you need in PoE 1 in terms of being like to reach the standard. And so now that we've got that, we can expand on that, get more uniques, sort of, mid-game ones, that kind of stuff. So there's stuff like that that'll be coming in the sort of the updates between now and 1.0. But it isn't going to be the kind of like mega content craziness that we've got for 050 here.
We have a lot to dive into as far as endgame things. While people watching live, get your questions in the chat for all of that. In the meantime, I want to ask you folks about the new league, the Runes of Aldur, which this is like an expedition rework, but it's also its own separate league. This encountering remnants, uncovering these runes throughout this storyline in the campaign, and then into endgame. And I was like, really, like, it's a lot. There's a lot of like crafting and items and reward types and systems and stuff going on here. In fact, Jonathan, you showed me this rather unhinged looking spreadsheet. Like I was like, oh, so these are just like random rewards or something. But then you showed me this spreadsheet, like that's like the recipes of all how different runes combine together to make different things. Yeah.
We probably put too much thought into it that it honestly needed. But like, like we have to make sure that like if it's an iron rune, like what kind of stuff would be creating that, like that sort of thing. Like the recipes have a lot more structure to them, and I suspect a lot of that players won't even think about. Like they'll just see list pick for item, like that's something I don't really think about. But there is some thought put into that of like what things go to what recipes.
One way to look at this league has the most spreadsheets we've ever made.
Like that's a title line, right?
The other day I was looking through all the. We have this gig. It's called like Verisium crafting or something.
Yeah.
I was looking through all the tabs, and I was like, I was on like the 60th tab, and I was like, the heck is this? I was reading all this stuff, and it said like Mark's ideas, and I was like, I don't remember coming up with any of this. I did. There's just like pages and pages and pages of crafts and stats, and just like honestly, I've lost the plot a little bit with respect to how many like different things we've made, and like it's honestly just been crazy.
Idea writing.
Some of the rune stuff is like also super bizarre. Like, what's like? I don't even really understand that rune that's got to do with uniques. Like, what's going on with that?
It's called Olroth's Legacy. And it's a rune that you can place in Ezomite and Kalgurin uniques to destroy the unique, and it takes one of the mods off of it and creates a unique rune.
What?
With a slightly modified value sometimes, because obviously. And then you can put that in the same item class of a
I don't even know about this system. Systems just keep coming out of the
There's just so many crazy crafting things going on. But it was kind of like, when we were designing the league, we're like, okay, we've got Kalgurans. Like, what kind of crazy crafting and magic systems would Kalgurans have, like, that would be different than the stuff that's going on in Rayclast? And so, their whole magic system is based around, like, this star metal that they have, Verisium, and then they, like, the words give it power and so on. So we're just kind of thinking, we're using that as inspiration for all the different crafting things you have.
Blue shapes.
Yeah, all the blue runic shapes and everything. So it was just a lot of
little nuts on this.
Yeah, we went definitely. So there's so many crafting things. Like, in fact, there's even more crafting stuff we had. Like, there were entire crafting benches that we have designed and practically like 80% implemented and then discard. There's just like a huge amount of that stuff.
We can do this or some other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool way. Yeah, so like, because I saw that there's like, you can bench craft a thing and then it changes the unique and it has a new modifier. But now you've also got a rune that steals modifiers off uniques as well. I had no idea.
Why not?
Why not? You like making more work for yourselves these days. That seems to be a running theme. I keep saying this to you. Like, why do you do this? Like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
Why do you make it so you have to like from now on you always have to look at all the modifiers on gloves?
100%. So yeah, because of that monk ascendancy, now every unique we ever make that's a glove unique, we have to design extra mods that it changes to.
One other axis on that. All these new runes we've added, all of them. Remember that shaman that has that whole bonded modifier on every rune that we need to also add?
Yeah.
Wow.
So does that apply to the ones that come from uniques like that?
TBD. We're going to try. Yes, we are going to try to do it. Yes, but the idea is all of them will work. Yes.
So that's like there's some really unusual ones too, because there's runes that are designed to just be put into an item to metacraft and then be replaced. Right?
I'm really proud of that one actually, because I really like the way that it's like doing metacrafting in a more understandable way, I reckon, than what PoE 1 had. So you put the item in, you can start rolling different mods, but then you can take it out again by putting another rune on top. So
I guess there's going to be maybe some process where you put one of those in, do a craft, and then put another one in, do another craft.
Almost certainly.
Together.
That one's pretty cool. We got like chronomancy mods on boots. You got like a berserking themed one for helmet. There's like a kind of decay, damage over time one for gloves, and there's a few others there. So we've kind of tried to theme them as well.
Yeah, that's like even a different thing to what we've had in the past with meta mods. Like that's not just shaping how we access the current modifiers, but rather new modifier pools entirely getting added to items.
I mean, we also have that new modifier pool thing going on with Breach as well, where with the new minion set of mods and the new caster set of mods on rings and stuff like that. Like, But the thing is, part of the reason for this is because we really wanted to make sure. So one of the things we're in the sort of early design phase of this is we're kind of like every league needs to have something that you're going to keep, like, if you want to grind just this league, that there's a thing that, like, a reward that, like, you can keep on, that keeps on giving, if you know what I mean. That there's, like, a reason to keep on doing this, like, economically. So therefore every league has to have some kind of crafting system that you can engage with for a very long period of time. And like, we didn't quite have that, because like some of the leagues sort of had that a bit before, but now we want to make sure that every league definitely has something along those lines. So that, just a reason to keep going.
Yeah, people can absolutely find like a niche, a service they provide the community or whatnot, which I quite like to see, especially the Breach tree getting real deep cuts on some of those things that you can do there, and now with the runes and everything as well. So for the back to the Runes of Aldur, you're not actually needing to like find those runes that you're inscribing on those encounters, right? Because I wasn't quite clear on how that works.
Thematically, that's how it works, but in reality, the way that you'll engage with it is when you find a rune that's sort of inscribed on a thing, then like all the recipes that relate to that rune will be displayed, except for that there's a few hidden ones that you have to do some quests to get. So there's some more quests throughout the campaign, and also some stuff in Endgame that you can do to unlock a few more recipes.
Yeah, but you don't have to like physically like cart these sorts of things around.
No. There's nothing like that. So effectively, like, you're just picking from the book every time. So like, if you want to just look at this as like, walk up to the object, there's some recipes, just pick which item you want. That's effectively how you can engage with it. But thematically, there's kind of more stuff going on with the way that the recipes form and what we decide to put and stuff.
So you showed that these remnants then, this new remnant system, obviously it shares the name with remnants from expeditions themselves. Correct. And in Endgame it actually replaces those remnants. So you are still finding these standalone remnants from the League mechanic, like in maps as well as expeditions.
Correct. Right? So yeah, every area there'll be a remnant, and you do the sort of standalone remnant mechanic. But then when you do expeditions, all the what used to be called remnants there have been replaced by these remnants, which serve a similar purpose, because they both give you an extra reward, but also make the monsters harder. And even just making the monsters harder in itself, by the way, does add more rarity to the monsters. So like the more runes that you are adding to the fight, the more rewards you're going to get. So it's worth doing, even aside from the reward that you're picking. There's still like extra juice that you're adding to the monsters as well.
We've effectively got a more unified monster mod system now, and so anytime we're pretty much adding mods to monsters, be it now runes, and we've even updated delirium mods to apply to the same system. They all go through the same. They all add. There's like a rarity, XP, life, etc. columns, and so we're just trying to make sure that there's a whereas before it's like system over here, system over here, system over here. They're different reward axes, and we're just trying to make sure it's all difficulty equals reward.
Right, and that's the key thing. Like, we always want to make sure that whatever the difficulty we're adding, we're always adding rewards in kind. And a lot of the stuff in PoE 2, I mean, it's been quite hard to balance it, but it's one of those things that, if you get it right, then it feels right, and if it doesn't, then you kind of don't know why things feel off, and like why things is like, this thing's too hard and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So on that topic, actually, so each of these runes has its own different modifiers that it does to make monsters harder. Is that something you can kind of engage with? You're like choosing the recipes?
So when you're choosing the recipe, you're also choosing what mods effectively go on it, because each rune that you're inscribing effectively comes with like, the thing that the monster's going to do. So there are definitely situations where you might want to decide to like pick something easier because you don't particularly like this mechanic, whatever, but it means you're missing out on whatever item is in that recipe. So like the goal there is that the harder, like the rarer the item, the harder the runes are that will be, the rune modifiers that will be added to the monsters.
Makes sense.
There's some pretty, like in expeditions and what we're now calling grand expeditions, because as what people knew as logbooks before.
The logbook is
the logbook is now is exploring the ocean. So,
it's actually a thing,
you get the cool things where, okay, let's say there's like 12 remnants and you want to get them all in the detonation chain. Each remnant you do the fight, and then one of those runes is passed on to be additive with the next. So it doesn't manipulate. So effectively, the monsters have the mods of the remnant, and then all of the next remnant's monsters have one of those runes as well as all the ones they had. So every remnant's harder than the next, getting more and more and more mods. And you can imagine if you go down 12, you can have technically up to 22 extra mods, which you'll note is the reason why we don't display a whole bunch of lines of text under it, and we instead have the bar of actual runic symbols.
So you can mouse over those or something, can you? Like to see the modifiers?
You were meant to be able to, but probably not right now.
There's this thing that we'll do later, which is this pause rework.
Yes.
I'm going to just spoil it now because it's like one of those things that we're going to do. But effectively, the intention for frickin' ages has been, we just haven't had time to do it yet, that when you pause the game, you can mouse over all of the different things and like find out information about them. So the intention would be to like be able to expand all of that stuff, like so look at all buffs and explore like what exact stats they give and that kind of stuff. If you want to do that, we've just been planning on doing it for ages, but we didn't get around to it. But,
I've been really keen on that.
Do note when you are, the runes do say what they do on the remnant, and when the one that moves onto the next remnant has an extra icon above it.
It's not actually moving on all of them, because I was going to say, because it's kind of like each remnant has a lot of modifiers. So it's not. Is it?
So let's say you have a remnant with 5 runes.
Yeah.
One of them will have a symbol above it, and that one forwards onto the next remnant. And so you can do a little bit of.
You can have a crazy encounter, but the next one is maybe not as bad. You're like, oh, maybe if I just make it through that, it'll be okay in the next part of Expedition.
Yeah, but then so the order of them kind of matters as well. And then, like, okay, let's say obviously each remnant gives a reward. There's a little bit of a more. If you're a juicer, so to speak, you're going to want to do a thing where you're like, okay, I want to get as many runes as possible. And so you want to kind of do things like avoiding overlaps. You want to make sure the last remnant has the most amount of runes, probably. And there's all these like different little things you can think about to try and
Expedition. Then
there is, yes, and it's the kind of thing where people are like, I'm going to try and squeeze the most amount of rewards out of these out. Or if you just want to just go blow up a bunch of stuff, also that's completely fine.
On that note, extreme archaeology is still a thing with this new system then? The giant explosion?
Not in the direct sense.
How do you mean?
Well, not with grand logbooks.
Right. Well, with the regular encounters and maps. That was always
I believe it's on one of the master nodes.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I need to double check that because I can't be sure, but I believe it is. Yes, we are.
Yeah, that was always the thing for regular expedition encounters anyway, right?
But like, obviously, you don't want that in a grand expedition because you're just like, well, okay, I'll get 1% of the island, I guess. Yeah, for the regular ones, it should be there.
Awesome.
But
cool.
If it's not,
it's funny though. Like there's also a sort of hidden amount of work that we sort of glossed over there as well in all of the like logbook islands, like what used to be called logbooks, but now the Grand Expedition Islands.
Yeah.
Like we put a lot of effort into like making a bunch of unique islands with weird shit. Like like every one of them has got like unique things to fight and blow up that like are kind of weird.
So it's not just a bunch of generic maps with expeditions in it.
Yeah. They're actually got a lot of effort put into them in terms of every one of them has 2 to 3 things that only spawn there that are interesting. So yeah, there's quite a bit there too. Like it's kind of like we didn't want to spoil too many of them because it's quite fun like finding out, oh, maybe this will explode, maybe that'll explode. There's like things like that you can do, but it's quite a fun one.
There's even like there's like special logbooks you can find now that a logbook is just you click it to reveal a section of the ocean. We have one that you can get that you can turn on, and then when you click it, all of the islands revealed have extra modifiers on them, like expedition themed modifiers, so like more explosives, more radius, and a whole bunch of stuff like that you can get late game.
Yeah, I guess kind of somewhat filling the role of how towers work in the rest of the Atlas as well, but for the islands. Like but an AoE craft of maps.
Well, but then you also have ones that reveal, like guarantee Olroth will be there, for example. So it's like a little bit, which is a way to trade for like then getting Olroth kills.
Spicy.
Of course.
Nice.
And you can always, of course, just trade for like the pinnacle boss keys themselves.
Anyway,
so,
yes,
yeah. But you know,
He's not the fake pinnacle anymore.
right.
And you are actually using regular Waystone, so you can kind of juice up
Yeah.
the expedition maps, the grand expedition
Exactly.
maps now.
Yes, you can.
Potentially quite a bit. That's pretty juicy. It seems I think you kind of mentioned, Jonathan, that it feels a little bit like Delve in some ways.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So the Exploring Ocean is sort of supposed to feel that way because it's one of those like sort of infinite expanses that you can go down.
Delve the ocean.
Yeah.
Delve
I mean,
sideways.
I still want to make proper Delve one day, but at least we've got this.
You also don't have to run around the islands reading all those giant blocks of text anymore, hoping to not get some...
Oh, you remind me, actually. So with the runes, is there modifiers like immune to fire damage and can't leech from them and stuff like that? It's good. They're just gone. Oh, yes.
Just more traditional modifiers, and then there's a set at the top. Like there's one called Power Rune, which is the rarest. It takes every mod and makes it tier 2. So there's some meta-y ones, and then there's the ones we showed, and there's one that causes all monsters spawned by the remnant to share a life pool. So, which is actually crazy and also very satisfying.
That kind of sounds fun, yeah.
The funny thing about this is that if it had been a normal live stream where we were just doing a league, like so much more of the stuff we probably would have delved into.
Yeah,
but instead, because we had so much in-game stuff as like other things as well.
You're doing like 5 leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
So you couldn't really show any of this stuff.
Yeah. There's tons of like hidden stuff.
It's like, I can't believe you glazed over this thing where like a rune steals a unique modifier.
Yeah,
That would have been like a core system you showed off in another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, oh yeah, we didn't have time. We had to cut it for time.
Well, I mean,
Like,
another one of those we cut for time was the ability to upgrade runes there's a thing that will upgrade a rune that's already in your in your gear.
Yeah, you can get like a perfect.
So you get a perfect rune of any rune can be upgraded past the normal level that it could normally go to using one of those. Like it's called the Masterwork rune.
Rub your runes.
So there's something like that as well. Like, there's all sorts of stuff.
Which you can then do incursion, extract, and trade. By the way, just to be clear.
Yeah. Because there's the incursion room lets you extract stuff.
That thing.
Yeah, so you can actually trade those, the upgraded ones if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah. And you've got another category of ones that absolutely can't be removed, and I assume not with that either.
Yeah. Like, so that's like the dual socket thing and stuff like that.
It's almost like vialing an item that's done.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to get the weird economy where the upgrader item is for some reason cheaper or something than the rune that's taken out of that. There'll be some weird, someone's extracted a perfect rune because that's like an abnormal thing you got to do incursion, and the upgraded item is like for some reason going to have a weird price differential to the rune. It's always the case.
Be a wild economy. I mean, not to mention just like 100 new runes in general. That's kind of like rather a lot, isn't it? It's a lot of runes.
It's a few.
Yeah, I think it's 160.
Yeah.
160 now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But it is the Runes of Aldur, like
That's right.
If we didn't have some runes in it, it would
some runes in it, exactly.
Yeah, it'd just be Elder League otherwise.
And that's not even all. Like there's the alloy crafting too, which is like we're gonna make a version of their essence crafting because of course
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, do you view this league just as like it was a crafting focused league from the outset? But
we knew. The Verisium stuff. Like they're known as like a whole culture of blacksmiths and like doing stuff, right? So they're gonna they're gonna do some crafting.
Do you think there is like a too much for crafting options, or is there some way that this is like kind of segmenting out that makes it feel like it's still manageable?
Well, I'd like to think it's manageable. Honestly, I find the rune stuff. I mean, you can always add more socketable type things like this because every time you find one, it's just a thing in itself. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why we steered away from like too many crafting bench type things. We've got like mega lists.
Yeah.
It's honestly way cooler to find an item and then like, okay, now this is a physical thing that I've got. So yeah, like that.
Yeah, I mean, you'll notice the Verisium Metallurgy one we have, the rune smithing, rune forging, whatever the names we ended up going with. It's just, here's your input, here's your output.
Exactly.
That's it.
So that one can be simple. You don't need to have the giant. And I think that the giant lists are part of what scare people off from crafting as well.
Yeah.
So I think doing it the way we've done it here is honestly more new player friendly than the kind of than the giant list you feel like you need to understand when you see it.
Yeah,
but of course, as these things go core, we'll see what works, we'll see what doesn't work, we'll see what worked in endgame and didn't, because again, once the things are core, how they appear in the campaign, you don't know. Maybe these things work really well in the campaign and need to be pulled into a system that's more campaign friendly without having to have remnants in every area and stuff like that. So it's always nice to keep an eye on that and see what works, what's good for onboarding, what's good for campaign progression, what's all of that kind of stuff. I mean, honestly, all of this stuff, if you're using it all, you're going to be significantly more powerful in the campaign. We have a bunch of, the those kind of purple runes, those powerful runes appearing throughout the campaign that you can get from the remnants as well, and like they do.
Was that even in the live stream? The purple.
Some of them were, I think,
Okay.
but like there's the rune for bows that gives you 50% chance for an additional arrow, and like that. It's not like that's end game. That's just early. Now, of course, you're going to get the thing of like, do I want to use it early or do I want to save it till late? Because it depends on how many you get and all of that. But like, the power is there if you need to use it and if you want to use it. So it's kind of up to you. And if they're abundant enough, go free. And
But to go back to your original question as well, we do sort of want to make sure that each of the crafting systems does like have specific domains most of the time.
Yeah.
So in the case of the breach one, again, like that's about jewelry crafting. If you're into like these specific things, and in particular, you've got the caster and minion stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking at that and you're like, okay, like if I need to cast, create some minion jewelry, then like this is the league I'm playing. But then if I'm not having to create that, then I don't have to necessarily understand that one. So we do try to like we're trying to make sure that it's not like for every single item slot or every single use case you have to know about every crafting system. Like there are specific ones that can help with specific areas.
Yeah, okay. And you can look into that. And that does divide it down a little bit more.
Yeah,
Make it a bit more
that's kind of the
digestible
intention.
chunks.
This was actually one of those things we discussed way back in the early days of PoE 2 about how we would differentiate crafting from PoE 1, is like try to have a little bit more segregation of the different crafting systems and different item slots.
Yeah, exactly. So you've also got this other crafting system in this because we're not finished through that list yet. So you can use rune forging to upgrade items, including unique items, to like increase their base damage, or give maybe some armors new rolls with ward and things like that as well. This is like another route to modifying uniques, which you've been doing a little experimenting a bit more with over time. And this has an ability to change affixes on uniques as well, right?
Correct.
So
the changing affixes part, I believe, is mostly the Kalguran uniques where it does that. Is that not correct?
Can you tell what is a Kalguran unique?
We are going to add a way for you to tell what's Ezomite Kalguran, because Val for the other one as well.
For the weapons, it's mostly about increasing the base damage to make it so that a low level unique can actually be something you can use in endgame. Because there's obviously a lot of uniques there that are interesting, but not viable for endgame because they just don't have the damage. So that's kind of like one of the main things we're solving. And then for the armors, it's all about like being able to make that ward versus other defense trade off. As well.
For the Kalguran uniques, what we've tried to do is have that, because most of the Kalguran uniques are endgame, right? That's just, drops from Olroth, drops from the new Pinnacle, a few others. And we've tried to have multiple outcomes for them, and you don't get to pick. So, for example, there's a new shield being added, and it is a strength dex shield, so armor evasion, and it comes with raised shield, and it has some mechanics around that. In the Verisium bench, you can put it in, you can craft, and it can turn into a full ES base, a full evasion base with parry, or a full strength base with raised shield. So you can, if you want to get away from it being hybrid, and like that's just one example. Now you might have to get a few of them to get the one you want. Deal with it. But for all of them, that's kind of the idea. Is like some are just mods, some are a bit more transformative. There's just like, okay, there's a weapon, and one of the outcomes might be that it's just higher damage, slower speed. One of it might be that it converts all of its damage to lightning, like it's got a Tempest theme. One of it might be that, there's like just a whole bunch of different stuff like that, and like some of them are a bit more niche, some of them are a bit more spike. But the idea is that there's generally we're going to try and aim for 3 different outcomes for every Kalguran unique. There are some other niche cases. I don't want to like spoil them because by the way, there's more crafting things. I'm just not going to tell you because they're secret.
Okay.
I'm getting all my secrets in, but I hope people can find them out and enjoy it. But yes, there are some other things as well that are a bit more out there. One that isn't so secret, but like there's the kind of the questions of like what happens if you try and add runic ward to something that has no defenses to begin with. Tabula rasa. Like there's like weird things where it's like, what happens when you convert nothing into something? I don't know, so
divide by zero.
And then there's some other weird cases as well. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, there's going to be a lot of exploration and tinkering, and it seems like a long tail of discovery for this league as well.
Yeah.
Months in, people might be still discovering stuff. So that's It's pretty exciting to hear. With the uniques in general, like I think this crafting, the ability to modify uniques, change how they work a little bit, has been pretty popular. Do you feel like, are you worried at all about like losing the identity of uniques, or what makes them unique, or what is the feel of a unique, or do you have kind of like an idea of how you can maintain them?
I think that it'll be possible to break that, but I don't think that we have here, because at the end of the day, the uniques are still like each serving a specific purpose, and that is different from rares and how they work. You know, like so. I think it is okay. Like what I wouldn't want to do is just be like, oh, now a bunch of rare mods can spawn on uniques. Like I'm not a fan of that at all. So as long as we're not doing that, I think it's okay. I mean, like we do push the boundaries. Even just the fact that uniques have socketables that go in them kind of changes things a bit. But I think a lot of the time when you do that, you're not really looking at that as like the unique has got random mods. It sort of feels more like it's just an extra place for things to go in your character. So I think it still works in terms of the flavor of what a unique is supposed to be.
Yeah, it feels like a separate layer. I guess a lot of the time you are changing one unique modifier for another unique modifier that's like a twist on the original concept, so it still retains that identity for sure. Quite a lot there as well. So kind of like transitioning. Oh wait, first I did want to ask about the Runic Ward thing. So Runic Ward obviously has undergone a bit of a redesign, a bit of a concept change here. It's now a layer under your life. How did you arrive at this design? Kind of what's the reason for it?
Well, once again, we were thinking, okay, we want to be able to make a magic system that feels like it's fundamentally different than what you'd have on Rayclast. We were trying to think like, okay, how do I say this? So I feel like I've lost myself here, but like I guess it is really just coming, something that feels a little bit different. And we wanted to make colorless skills, right? We wanted to make a thing where these skills can be used across classes. So all of those skills we want to be used. But we didn't really feel like we would be able to use an energy system that wasn't independent of the existing ones that we had.
Right. Yeah.
And so then we're like, okay, if we make something here where you get to be able to trade some level of defensiveness for offense, because you're spending effectively part of your life pool, then we'd be able to make a system there. But we probably couldn't have used life, because if we'd done that, there's so many other things that like are going on with life that wouldn't have really been able to, that wouldn't have been able to work. So hence, Ward. I mean, it's just a completely different thing than what Ward was in PoE 1. We just sort of used the term, but it means something completely different in PoE 2.
I think it's just a significant upgrade from PoE 1's, just like kind of one-shot energy shield. I mean, that was like hard carried by uniques. Whereas this is a way more, just applicable system. You can just have a little bit of it, and you're just happy to have a little bit of extra life. Effectively, works way better in the campaign. Works just as more of as an isolated system, and doesn't need to have like, okay, here's now 4 unique mechanics, and now my ward is a build, which is fine. If it's all in-game, that's fine. But like you were talking about having something in the campaign here, a full league and a system we want to engage with and get some, borrowed power out of via these skills and whatnot. And so, it just works a lot better.
One thing I should mention with the ward is that in the early base types, it's usually strict upgrades. Like if you're early in the campaign, you're not trading off anything, you just get extra bonuses. But as you get into the end game, that's where those bases start to be like, okay, in order to have more ward, we're going to be trading off your other defenses. And that means that when we finally do potentially move it into core, it's going to be like, it'll be a question of like, do I want to go for, like, it's not going to be something mandatory, because if it had just been always additive, it would have been that every single person needs to put ward on every single base type, and we don't want it to be that way in the end game. We want it to be, once it gets there, it's like a choice of like, do I want to engage with this, do I not want to? So that was kind of an important consideration there at the end.
We've actually also handcrafted every outcome. So every single, like, generally how you would expect this kind of thing to be done. Here's the formula, it converts. Right. We've just gone and said, let's do it manually for everything, which means it was a metric amount of metadata to add.
Every base type we add has to have the ward, the rune-crafted rune forged
version. At endgame, you get some cool stuff where base type A might become very, very heavy on runic ward, where base type B might have just a little bit, and some are in the middle, and some sacrifice a bit more defense where others don't, and then the same with the uniques. You're getting like crazy different outcomes where it's a similar thing. Where it's like, what is Calm's Heart going to do? What's Brass Dome going to do? There's like different kind of things that people are going to play around with, and it's like, is it worth it? And the good thing is you can, of course, see the outcome before you do it with these non-random ones on armors. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
When you have both the slots, if you mouse over the right one, it will show what you're going to get, except for like those Calgarian unique outcomes, like I said. So that's a bit more special. But most of the time, you can see what you're going to get. So if you're just like, oh, no, I don't want to lose that armor, then don't lose that armor. So, but yeah, there's some crazy stuff. You'll get some runic ward stackers. You'll get some people that just have a supplemental amount just to stack, maybe just enough to use a skill or just enough to use a support. And you'll get people who are just trying to spam the skills as much as they possibly can. You'll have some people who have low amounts stacking higher regen of it, and like all kinds of stuff is the goal. All done via the metallurgy, the runes, the different skills like. The whole suite is there, so there's just all kinds of stuff you can do.
Yeah, and on the topic of the Calgarian skills, this is like, especially because this is like something that gets asked all the time, is like, oh, can we have more weapon agnostic skills? Things that kind of like blur those boundaries a little bit now that you've got those established. What's the design process or the goal, or how you're approaching? So it's a little bit tricky because we have to make sure that these things are going to be things that can be used across classes. Like I don't want to just be like, okay, this one's only for like one particular character, and it needs to kind of span them, and that means they tend to need to work with things like existing debuffs and existing buffs. We've got one that generates they've got various things that that just play with all of those different mechanics. So like the example we gave in the presentation of like converting fire to frost fire, like that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of different builds, a lot of different character classes that'll be able to play with that. And ideally that means that it can just open up the different different ways to be able to synergize between different mechanics all over the place. And then because they spend ward rather than some other resource, it means that there's no issue there either. Yeah, potentially slot into any build and don't have attribute requirements or colors.
That's the other thing, of course. They don't have strength, dex, and attribute requirements. They just have level requirements. So that way, the
Calgarians are a little bit more ahead of Ray class times, it seems. Oh wow.
There's a bit more of a technological magic, isn't it?
It's cool that it's often the case when we add these things, it can feel a bit shallow. Like it can feel like here's this whole new magic system, but only there's this little amount. Whereas here, I feel like we've actually gone, here's this whole magic system, like here's a taste of it, and like in some cases, like sure, 25 skills now, we'll see what happens later, and like there's things to expand on, unless they're of course terrible, in which case they never existed, you know what I mean? But I mean for the long-term health of the game. But you get this thing where it's like it really feels like, with respect to the Calgarian magic, the Calgarian technology, we're just like getting further and further and really learning more and more about how these people gain their power, how it's different from everything on Rayclast, and like it's honestly been just quite cool. And like Runic Ward, as I said, it feels way more than just like, it feels pretty core. Like it doesn't feel like this just secondary thing. Not that you have to do it, it's not mandatory, but it feels core when you do engage with it, which is very cool. And I wouldn't say we've gone this deep into like a extra resource system and thing like in any league ever before, not in this regard. So
yeah, it's like usually just like some map thing, you collect petals or something. Seems a bit more engaging than that, a bit more fundamental character builds. Okay. Well, it seems like that's something you would probably want to keep long term then as well, like as long as it works.
If it works, then we will.
Yeah, if people like it ultimately. Since we're talking a lot about gear, just kind of zooming out to a bit broader picture, some outstanding issues from our last meeting. If I consult the minutes here, plus skills is often brought up as something that's has a very high level of impact on your gearing choices and can feel for some, I think, a bit restrictive, as just because it's so much stronger than other.
We did have a big conversation about that. I can't remember what we finally decided on there.
Yeah, it's one of those dexterity-like conversations.
Yeah.
I think we are trimming a few levels off the top.
Yeah, that's right.
Or more so. Yeah. More so, we're trimming some off the top and moving some of it up so that there's still a high-level mod. But doing that for the weapon mods. But like, there's more to do here, for sure. I would say that given the like this league in particular, like I remember we started it and we were like, here's all the things that we've discussed we need to fix, we need to do all this, And then it was like, oh, and here's the like 8,000 other balance runes and crafting systems and everything we want to do and new classes. And it was like, new versus existing having a bit of a conflict. And we were, so I wouldn't say we got to do as much of the balance fix up to a lot of the stuff we've discussed previous that we wanted to do here. But as you were talking about at the start of the Q&A, like that is, and what Jonathan said is that is a lot of what we want to do, while we have the team making the acts.
Yeah.
Like that's a different kind of balance. We don't have, you're not adding runes and crafting systems to the acts in the same way,
Which
right?
means that those designers
it's
are
a
freed
different
up
team.
freed up to be able to work on all of those kinds of larger balance concerns.
You can pretty much do some balance leagues between.
We
now
do,
and,
exactly, and we do have a big list of stuff we want to change there. Like there's a lot.
It is a list.
Which isn't to say that we didn't do some balance for this.
I expected you to do almost none on this one, given the scope.
No, but there's definitely some. There's some important ones too.
Which we'll cover a few of those.
Got some Chronomancer stuff. There's we're doing a bunch of stuff, but honestly, it just is as much as we can, to be honest. Like, we're not sitting idly not doing it, but yeah, like, I understand that there's a few things, which I assume you're going to bring up a couple others, that are left unresolved, and
certainly.
Hopefully, maybe one of them's resolved. We'll see.
Well, the next one was
Leech.
Rarity, reprising our earlier discussions on Rarity from the last Q&A, where you were saying that you were eager to at some point remove Rarity from the
I am interested in doing that. It's still a question of what we can replace it with, but there is one other change to talk about around that is a bit more subtle, and I don't know whether it will matter or not. But one of the things we identified, look, the thing people often say with Rarity is they just don't want it to give currency.
Yeah,
that's like a common thing that they'll say. Like people who say they want to keep Rarity, they'll often say, "Oh, but it should. You could just remove the currency from it, and then it'll be okay." So what we were thinking about is like, there's this sort of market dynamic that goes on in PoE 1, but hadn't been going on in PoE 2 so much, where people couldn't really respond in PoE 2 to the market by like picking the reward type that they would like to get as much.
Yeah.
So in PoE 1, it's like if currency is becoming more valuable, you can respond to that by farming leagues that give you more currency. And if uniques are becoming more valuable, then you can respond to that by farming more uniques and that kind of stuff. So there was like a little bit of an aim here to make it so that the league's a little bit more like by picking what league you're also picking more of what types of rewards you want to get a little bit better, which can mean that like if there's a gap in the market, you can fill it that way, and that should result in like more price. We're getting total economist here right now, but it'll mean that people can respond to the price signals that the market is giving them by farming the correct thing to like get the thing that like the market is valuing more right now.
So we're actually seeing that phenomenal difference between the two games on like the economic statistic level.
Well, I think it's not so much looking at the statistics, but just realizing that like without the ability for players to do that, it can mean that you can get endless inflation in one thing because people aren't able to respond to that by effectively getting more of that thing to drive the prices down again. So that kind of stuff actually can matter. And so one of the things we have been doing is making it so that here's a league you can farm more to get more of this thing. And like even with regard to something like Breach, because you can pick there's mods for picking what type of womb gift is going to drop more often. You can be like, okay, if currency is more valuable right now, I'm going to pick that one. That's I'm going to have that tree be the one that I'm getting more of, and that kind of stuff. So it's like giving a little bit more control over what the rewards are, which should actually lead to a bit more price stabilization here as well. But we'll see how that works. Like I don't know whether that's actually one of the things, but it does seem related to the fact that in PoE 2, since Rarity effectively boosts everything, it meant that that mechanic wasn't letting it be one of the levers that people could use to respond to the market that way.
Yeah, exactly. You were just going to do it because it was clear.
Sorry, guys, for turning into an economist all of a sudden, but it's like
I like it.
It's one of those things.
I think it's just ignoring the whole economy aspect. It just gives players agency to target what type of loot they want anyway, right? How is that not just straight up better for like, here's what I need, here's what I want, I'm going to go get it, and here's the different levers I have to be able to achieve that, be it via choosing a different league, be it by choosing different multi-choice atlas tree things within that league, be it by picking a certain master and taking a certain Atlas Master skill that changes the rewards of one of the leagues. Like there's many different axes here, which is very, very cool to just be like, all right, we're going to try and get the best out of the uniques today, or I'm going to try and target farm this or that. And like, it's just a win, even if you're just like, I don't care about inflation and all of the trade and all of that. Like it's just good. So win-win on that regard, hopefully, assuming
but
the economy
saying
adapts.
that doesn't necessarily mean that we're like happy with how item find stuff is. Like there still might be changes.
Yeah, correct.
It sounds like you're still eager to replace that.
Yeah, I am.
Given that you can find the
It's one of those things that's surprisingly hard, alongside Leech, alongside Dex, and various other things like
to do with the deck bonus.
the forever topics that always seem to come back and to haunt us every time.
Yes, keep you awake at night. Since we're talking economy and inflation, is that something you guys are kind of like interested in looking at in some way, like sinks for exalts or divines, or kind of managing that sort of stuff, where you just kind of like see what happens?
This is a weird one because some of the perceptions that people have about like what each thing means can be backwards from what people expect. But I do think that that's gonna come down to that sort of ability for people to respond to the market. I think that's going to help. But as I said, we'll see. If it doesn't help with that stuff, then we'll revisit it and see what
More
happens.
sinks for exalts is an inevitability for sure. It will occur at some. It just kind of has to. Sinks for divines. I don't know. Find Mage Blood, see what happens.
I was like, you have something in the works for that one. I know how you do.
Good luck.
Yeah, wait and see with that. On the topic of crafting, are there any, with all this new stuff, are there any changes to like the existing stuff of crafting, like how the crafting systems work, the currencies work? How happy have you been with the introduction of Greater and Perfect orbs?
I would just say that Greater and Perfect are too, especially Perfect is just too common. Like we're probably going to have to nerf the drop rates of those.
Transmutes and orgs. Yeah.
And because effectively it's sort of being a problem in that kind of early in the end game crafting is like probably a little bit too easy. So we'll probably nerf the drop rates of some of that stuff a little bit. I think it probably just a little bit too far. Like not to make them like impossible.
Mostly transmutes and augments.
Mostly transmutes and augments. So it was just making it a little bit too easy.
Yeah.
So
I guess the outcome of that is that they become the norm like immediately, right?
Sure. So there'll probably be a change there. But like I think that it was just being a little bit too easy to progress in that early end game part there.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to hit you with, I usually do this at the end, but right now, a surprise QOL UX round. So you've got this in-game build planner, which is an awesome addition. Very excited and kind of surprised that you did that as well. It's a huge leap over what you tested in the past. That kind of went away for a while, which was like the ability to plan passives.
Yeah.
So I guess that was the reason why that went away, since you had a bigger project in mind. I'm curious, when you take a different angle on this, what don't you want to do with this? Like, where is the line of where you don't want this to? Because this is something that helps like players a lot. It's very in-game.
Right. Well, some people have asked us, like, you know, are you going to suggest builds? Like, is ZiggyD going to be like, here's some builds to play and that kind of thing? And I don't want to be doing that. I do want to leave it to the community to decide what is that stuff. So that means we're not going to be like, what I don't want it to be is like, okay, you like join the game for the first time and the game's like, pick a build, you know, like, that isn't how it should work. Like it needs to be that that most, look, I know that a lot of players wanted to follow build guides, and that's absolutely fine. We want to give as good of tools as we can for that. But at the same time, like I still want the desirable theory of the game to be that you join the game having never played it before and you just explore and find the stuff that's interesting. So, you know, but then like if you're already going to a website to find a build guide, then at the point you've done that, like we might as well make that as easy as possible for you to do and follow and all that sort of thing. So
we've actually made sure to keep it hidden unless you know to do it.
So unless you basically
you don't open your passive tree and it's like load files and you're like, what the heck is going on here?
Now I should mention that we didn't put it in the live stream because we weren't like 100% sure that it would be there, but it is being worked on right now that there's going to be like a one-click solution for getting a build from a community website, right? So the idea is like, you know, a community website can put a link, and when you click the link, it'll just add it to your account.
Like with filters, like what?
Yeah, exactly like with filters, right? So then it can just add it to your account, and that way you don't have to screw around with files or anything. And that's important for console players as well because they obviously can't put files on the console. Yep. So basically they'll be able to, you know, add it to their account just like an item filter, and then now it's just going to appear there.
The
and
trust.
Stuff will work.
I know right now you have to have a real trust in your filter creator. Because they could just hide mirrors. So hopefully your build creator,
because
your build creators,
right?
So April 1st, your build creator just completely changes your build randomly for a day.
But the documentation for how to do the build files should be going up today-ish, and that means that what I'd expect to happen, although obviously it's up to them, like the various community projects like Path of Building and that kind of stuff, to all like adopt that and make it so that you can so that you can export a build from those tools, and then then the creators can create websites showing those off and that kind of thing, and like that kind of stuff is what we'd expect to.
Yeah, it just improves the actual like physical act of like having a build guide and implementing that, using it for people who are. That's awesome.
And if we also find that like build creators are interested in adding notes to more places, like we tried to get everything we could think of, but there might be places where you like because the idea is like anywhere where a creator wants to be able to say like here's some more tutorialization that they want to add. The idea is that they can kind of do that. that.
Yeah, I love
that. You know, like that's the sort of.
I can tell people to upgrade their life flasks for life flasks that heal more life. Than
Yeah,
the
for
previous
sure.
one.
Exactly like the example we had in the video.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's very true. People overlook it.
Yeah.
So another one from our outstanding minutes is the mouse and keyboard and controller Hotswapping.
I know, and it's becoming a running joke at this point of like people promising it every league and then not delivering it. And the annoying thing about it is that it's one of those things that like someone will work on it for like there's a surprising amount of code to do to change it, but then every time it's like the guy like someone will work on it for like a month or something, and they'll be like, oh shit, we've got this urgent league UI that needs doing, and then they get derailed. But I promise this time is the time that we will get it for 1.0.
I took him for the fragment tab. Sorry.
Yeah, it is actually legitimate.
But also not
it legitimately
sorry.
was.
But not sorry because the fragment tab's kind of I want it and I need it.
Yeah. But it's like I think
Whoops.
I think there was a bingo card that you saw where you're like, so many people want this.
Yeah.
Fragment
So, look, fragment tab.
so you can actually blame the bingo card makers.
Yeah, I guess so.
mouse and keyboard.
Hotswapping was on there too. I had my hand over it. I was like, look, they want the fragment tab.
I see.
Really what I mean is I want the fragment tab.
Another one that I haven't mentioned before, but are revisiting, is visibility issues. So skills, I think, are being designed to look as cool as possible under normal circumstances a lot of the time. Like the artist, I imagine, is working on them in that situation. But then they can become extreme on endgame builds, right? You're adding like 10 extra projectiles and screen size AoE scaling and attack speed. So I think like a good example is Explosive Grenade. Phenomenal looking skill, immensely satisfying. Sounds, visuals, but now we've got like grenade nova projectiles with totems firing out multiple
It can get pretty extreme.
You got to put your sunnies on, man.
I know.
It's funny when I'm streaming, you can see the face just light up whenever you toss a grenade.
It's one of those things where, like, over time, ideally, we're able to just improve the situation with regard to effects. I mean, we do have some systems for limiting this kind of stuff, like to prevent certain particles from spawning.
I was wondering if like some sort of dynamic culling effect.
We do have stuff like that, but it's one of those things that it's easy for it to get left till the end and then not done, because the effects artists are obviously optimizing for what looks good. And whenever you're if effects artists come to me and like, hey, what do you think of the skill? It's not I tend not to be like, okay, now let's see it when there's like a bajillion of them, that's one of those steps we should probably take at some point. But it's like we do have systems for it. It's just a matter of like spending time working on it, and it's the kind of thing that just over time will slowly
It
improve.
honestly is a time problem.
Yeah,
like we do, it gets tested internally. It does get reported. There are issues, tasks that are made, and they say, help my frame rate, help my eyes. It does say that, and 100%. And then it's like, I could optimize this. I don't quite know how, and a few people have to collaborate to do it.
We definitely do fix the worst cases, like when they're really, really bad. We do. But before you see them, ideally. But there can also just be cases where it's like we didn't realize that a build would be created that could get to this level of insane.
Well, yeah, when explosive grenades were added, there wasn't a way to do all this
exactly.
stuff.
So then,
three leagues later,
sometimes it is the balance that's the problem, right? And then so that can be a bit tricky when it's like, how do you know, is this an engine task, an art task, is it a balance task? And
that's the funny thing about it as well, because all of those sorts of issues have to actually go to a game designer, because they're the ones who can decide, like, is this even acceptable in the first place? And that's like a sort of a very tricky thing. So like we did do some nerfs in 040, I believe, to some of the grenade spam stuff that you could do, but then I believe there were some other mechanics added that kind of made it come back again. So it
was it was like slight nerf and then way more. It
happens.
That's good.
But we'll resolve them over time. Like we will get it better.
And just to reiterate, because in the past we'd asked about the idea of like transparency sliders or brightness sliders.
I'm not a fan, honestly. Like I think it does fundamentally kind of ruin something there that I'm not.
So that's like I
want to try and fix it so that you don't even have to think about it. That it's not a setting you need to do. It's not anything like that.
You want to take the hard route on that, which
for sure. Always, every time. The hard route. That's the best route.
The last one I have, maybe, unless there's some extra chat ones in there, is you guys looking to get full Steam Deck verified sometime?
Yes. Well, I was telling you about that earlier. So so this is there were a few things around the UI that made it so we couldn't get Steam Deck verified, like UI size. So we've actually added a lot of options for UI scaling in like different areas now. So pretty much everything, like hovers versus all these different areas are now scalable. All the different parts of the UI, and that means we can now have defaults for Steam Steam Deck that we can now go, okay, hey Valve, can you Steam Deck verify us please, and get all that stuff. And we're sort of testing on the Steam Deck now. Like we have, Steam Deck stuff internally. It's a thing we're taking seriously because we know there are a lot of people who want to be able to play it on the deck. So it is now a thing that we're. I really want to make sure that by launch especially that it's like a perfect experience.
Awesome.
There's still some performance issues at the end game on Steam Deck. Like it's still not quite there that we need to work on. But during campaign it's fine. But
I'm not going to play grenades on Steam Deck.
So there's like a few things there we still need to do to improve. But in terms of like the experience of like the main experience and all that stuff, it's way better now.
Great news. Excellent. I keep seeing in the chat, so I'm just going to ask it. But like, people are asking, like, tell me about Mage Blood, but like, quite clearly,
we're not going to tell you about Mage Blood.
Yes.
You have to find Mage Blood.
You want people to find Mage Blood. I mean, you did drop some extra hints there, kind of subtly. But people can maybe you can rewatch the Q&A and kind of like find out what those hints were.
I know how to tease a unique.
I mean, this is like outside of a headhunter or something. This is like one of the most like chase long-awaited items.
And the tricky thing is making sure that people actually like it as well, because we don't want to disappoint people.
Yes,
that would be sad.
It's going to be insane, though. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. When we're filming the trailer, I'm like, you make sure that Mage Blood's on the screen for a second. You put that text there.
There's one frame of Mage Blood. But
it's so rare. I'm like, I don't care. Do it.
Excellent. There's one for you to look forward to. Before we jump into the end game, let's talk a little bit about campaign leveling. So there's a pretty nice signposting tricks additions there.
Yeah. Nice. In one case, completely literally signpost.
Literally a signpost.
It's one of those things that I like. So we do understand that if you're a repeated playthrough, like it needs to be that it can be efficient. Mm-hmm. We were thinking about like what is better in PoE 1 than PoE 2 in this respect, and we're thinking there's just like people have just learned a lot of tricks.
Yep.
But then we're like, are there even enough tricks in PoE 2 to learn? Like, like we want more mastery things. Like we want it so that if you're paying attention, you actually can work out, hey, like this thing leads to that thing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, go nuts on that.
We are just going nuts on it, right? Because it won't actually affect the time it takes for a first-time player to play through, because like they're not going to know what it means.
And that's the secret, isn't it? Exactly. That's the secret sauce there.
And like, in some cases we have shortened some stuff. Like for example, at the end of Act 2, there was like 2 areas of the cart. The Faraday cart. Now there's just one.
Oh, nice.
Like the one that there is like very slightly longer than one was before, so like it doesn't feel like a complete compromise of that, but like it is definitely shorter than what it was. There's just stuff like that all through the game, and then there's some counterintuitive things that we've done. Like in some cases, you want to take an area and that was linear and actually make it non-linear, but with wayfinding, right? Because if something's linear, there's literally only one path to go. Like it entirely depends on what your clearspeed is to get from one end to the other. Whereas if something is more open, but then you've got things that point you where to go. It's like if you know what those are, now you can get through it faster. Mm-hmm. But if you don't know what they are, it's still like an area that's going to take you a little while to get through.
Giving the possibility of a shortcut.
Exactly. So things like that can actually be something kind of counterintuitive that you can do. Because a lot of people just assume, like in order to make it shorter, the way to do it is just make the levels smaller, But that would compromise the first time experience. So it really is about like, how can I make it take you less time while also not making it take you less time if you were playing for the first time?
Yeah. Even like the jungle ruins now, the silverback, the big old quadrilla is now in the direct center of the level.
Right. So that means you can always find him easily, right?
You can find him, northeast, southwest, you just know. Yeah. And then obviously you can find the camp is another way. There's all these different ways. I mean, if you find the venom crypts, you escape out the other end.
Yeah. So there's an extra exit in the venom crypts that comes out directly next to the exit of the area. So if you want to go down through the venom crypts, it's actually can be a faster way to find the exit to the zone. There's like a shortcut through there.
Cool.
So and then the venom crypt. Here's an interesting one. All the snakes. This is one people probably want to notice. I'm going to tell you. All the snakes go towards where the venom crypts are. Oh. So all the snake, the little snake critters, they're going home. They're going towards it. So if you see a snake, that's the way that the venom crypts are. So there's like little details like that everywhere. Just little things like that.
That's so cute. I love it.
There's a little bit of stuff with monsters as well. Like there's in the venom crypts again. Towards the boss room where there was the shaman making the whole venom potion, now you get more of the humanoid monsters of that tribe.
So that was an area. It was really hard to find that final place like where it was. But now you know, like, if I find those type of monsters, that means I'm getting near the place where the where
we've done that in a few places. So a density of monsters increasing, or more so the other types of monsters phasing out as well. So an introduction of an abnormal monster, or one that's not natural to the rest of the area, or in some cases one that's natural to the area, and then you get to a section where now only those monsters are there and all the other monsters aren't spawning. For example, the snakes in Keth.
Yep.
Right around Kabbalah's section, the boss there is only Serpent Clan. You don't get the
so,
other
if you want to find Kabbalah, then you fight, run in the direction where there's more snakes.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is it. I don't know if we'll get it all perfect in one go, but we're going to be doing a lot more of just that sort of stuff all through the campaign.
We definitely got more to do, and we're just going to keep going.
Excellent. Good stuff.
And also what we're finding is it's just adding more flavor to the areas. It's adding more identity. It's adding more interesting things. And it's just an upgrade overall and on every axis.
I had a little bit of hands-on time, and I was especially a fan of the Yogam village change because, now you actually you come in and there's an obvious cobblestone road there, and if you follow that, you get to the blacksmith.
Exactly.
That was so annoying to find before.
Yes. And it actually it makes the zone feel a lot better as an actual zone too. Now it actually feels like a village, like a town. It doesn't feel like just a random maze like it was before. So it actually, a bit more of a believable, realistic area. So good stuff. On the leveling topic, something that comes up somewhat often is this idea of so you've got new skills getting unlocked all the way through into late Act 4. And I've always thought of this personally as a good thing, right? You've got a nice steady progression of new stuff to play with. But recently I saw some interesting reasons why people don't like this. And that's the idea that you sometimes spend hours leveling a build that it just isn't your build. You play all the way through to Act 4 on some other build that you don't want to play until you get your top tier ice skill there. So I have to imagine you're a fan of having that long tail of progression. But there are other reasons why you kind of want this spread. And how do you feel the idea of compressing, I don't know, maybe the main skills down to the first 30 levels or something?
That's actually not something that I've had come up before in terms of being a problem like that. So that's very interesting to think about.
I've seen. I prefer the slow unlocks personally. That's my style. I prefer.
It's certainly as a first-time player, you want it to be that you kind of get that, it feels like your build is still progressing as you get through the game. But it is interesting, of course, to think if you want to just speed through and you want to play a certain build. That is certainly something
even on the experimentation level. So when you respec to a character at endgame, it's just trash. It feels bad generally to do that because you didn't have that evolution of that build over time. And I feel like maybe if you're swapping over at level 52 to your actual build then, because that's when you get the skill, then you don't actually really have much of that progression evolution of your build to test.
It might be more of a matter of just swapping where some skills are given.
I think
it also can also be that we're not necessarily, it's not necessarily clear when we're creating the build, what some skills might end up being ones that feel like main skills in that way.
Yeah, I imagine I need to review
there's probably likely that's one of the issues there is just moving things around where they start.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't want something that's too flashy to be something you get really, really early, because otherwise it feels kind of strange in the power curve. You do need to feel that level of progression of the skills get more epic. So
I imagine it's pretty okay to have things like those glory skills and stuff like that right down the bottom there.
Well, certainly. The last row tends to always be those sort of ultimate type things that, in theory, those are not things that your entire build is made around. So it's more just sort of extra.
The examples that I get brought up usually aren't that sort of thing, but rather what's that ice skill that shoots projectiles everywhere? That round spinny one. Winter something.
Is it Winter Orb? Is that the name?
Or Eye of Winter?
Eye of Winter, that's the one. Yeah, Eye of Winter is an example that I see get brought up because it is on that last tier and it is kind of a main skill and it's not really a big cooldown skill.
That one honestly might be able to come down.
All right, so that's something to
maybe.
I suspect there's some tweaks to the levels. There's some reorganization. There's possibly. I could see a thing where also once we have the full campaign in place. Maybe there's a point where we're okay, you want every skill by, and then we come up with a new point. But
I honestly suspect the rearranging is the solution there.
Nice. Okay, sure. That's good to hear. I think that would be good for these people who feel like they don't get to play their build for a long time there.
Right.
Kind of carrying on with the topic of skills, builds, and balance, we have the two new Ascendancies, which you seem to be getting a little bit like with the classes. They're following a similar trajectory of getting a little bit more. A little bit extra, a little bit more high effort each time. So,
as we kind of learned from PoE1, we have changed some, but Ascendancy classes are kind of just forever things. Yep. We obviously have a whole alternate classes league and stuff like that, which is cool. But we don't. On rare occasions, we're obviously going to change the balance, change kind of what the skills are, but who those characters are and the identity of that, and most of them are going to remain fixed for a long time.
Yep.
You'll get rebalances, you'll get changes, obviously, right? We've done that a lot, but you know, I wouldn't expect the Deadeye to despawn anytime soon as an identity. If ever, just by the way, just and so like they just need to be high effort, and they need to be, you know, something that we are like something that comes up a lot, and you'll notice it in these two. Like now, for every single beast boss, the Spirit Walker,
Yes.
we have to make a tamed version
This is what I keep saying. Like,
for
why do you
every
do this to
pair of
yourself?
for every mod on gloves, of which we just added a bunch of alloys. And there's, you know, it goes on and on. We have to. It's a maintenance, but the thing is, as I said, these are forever classes. These are identities. These are very important, and so it's like always very worth it. But now we. Just a bit of a rant here about those beasts, because it's come up a bit recently where I'm like, what is a beast? Are the new pinnacle bosses beasts? And I'm just like, oh no, what's going on here? What are we doing? Like, you know, like some, you know, there was
There's
the
a shapeshifted one who turns into a werewolf, a beast when they're in shapeshift form.
wow,
for example.
exactly. So you know,
Well, you got to tame the count. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, only in second form.
only in second phase, yeah, maybe, or maybe because
I
he's,
mean, cool.
you know, or maybe specifically. Nah, I don't know. I don't know where we're getting with that. I don't know. The point is, it gets a little bit complicated. It's like, where does it end? And, you know, how much you're talking about, you know, visibility. How much of your screen are you willing to have be a gigantic pinnacle boss? And thing is, like, changing the scale is not actually as trivial. Like,
Yeah, I was like, I thought you make them smaller, but then I saw like the giant bird boss. I'm like, nope, that looks like a normal size boss right there.
I think that's fun, but you know, we did limit it to 1. We did internally have it that people were running around with 5 for a while, and it was a little bit off, a little bit out of control. But yeah, it's quite fun. But I'm so excited to just see how honestly, it's such a weird thing to say. I'm so excited for how much work we've created for ourselves in the future.
I'm very glad to hear that. That is good. It was the right mindset, I think. Excellent. So with the Tame Beast thing, like when you get your first Ascendancy, that Tame Beast gem is actually a higher level, though. Like, is this something you?
Yeah, we do have a thing that we're going to do about that.
Okay. So
There's a solution, I believe, that we had for that one.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah.
And with this being the idea of being a big single beast, and a lot of the time, like, I don't know that bosses compared to, say, like, aura beasts don't have a bunch of utility stuff on them. Like, I'm sure there'll be some, but not as much exactly. So I imagine you want these to actually be things that kill stuff. So how do you make the big single minion work?
We have, like, honestly, I think it might have even been, we've tripled the damage, I think, of tamed beasts. Just FYI.
Cool.
We're doing a few changes around that because we want, like, damaging companion builds outside of obviously just Wolf Zerg to be more of a thing. So, you know, we're doing a bunch of changes to, for example, we're trying to give them a longer revive time. The idea behind the revive time on that, which I know sounds bad, but just let me explain the thing, is that with obviously an undead build, you generally have a swarm. And so the revive time's a little bit lower, and the assumption that things are dying and reviving more frequently.
Yeah.
Companions should be a bit more, you obviously have 1 or 2, and you have a lot fewer of them. They're more significant, so they should take longer to revive. And so these, like, uninvested aura companions, and when they die, you should feel that more. Like, you should be having to invest into them to keep it alive.
Okay.
On the other end, we're making them deal way more damage, so they're more of just an aura bot. And then for the bosses in particular, what we've done is gone through, and for every single one of them, we've gone, okay, are you good at stunning? Are you good at freezing? Maybe they have, you know, the primed for stun thing. Maybe they have, we're trying to just really give each of them something that can complement your build.
Themes a bit.
So it isn't just a question of just taking the boss as it is and being just like,
No,
hey, it's like, all of them are actually like designed, you know, in terms of like what they can be.
Crazy. So it's even more effort.
Yeah.
Because
it's more like, you know, it's just more like taking a creature that's got existing animations and be like, now we have to completely do AI and everything.
We're adding a bunch of new passives for companions. There's obviously a bunch of uniques. Some of, I think we showed 1 or 2 today. But yeah, playing into that archetype a lot more for sure. It's definitely way more fun to play. Like lately, it's just running around with your kind of mini zoo. It's kind of fun. So
awesome. On the martial artist, the Fists of Stone that converts gloves, you showed that working with a rare, and that was quite spicy. A lot of uniques don't have like modifiers that are like actual kind of like regular modifiers. So does this work on uniques?
Certainly does.
Crazy.
Why not?
Why not? There's,
every unique glove from now on, you gotta find some way to convert their
the real
modifiers
question
into
is,
something else.
does it affect the mods that go on the runes that are in the item?
I don't think it affects socketed mods, no.
Right.
It's
So
meant to affect every explicit mod. We talked recently about vile corruptions and whether or not it does or doesn't, so TBD. But yes, it does affect uniques. It is intended to affect all essence mods and alloys and all of that. But like, honestly, you will go as far as we can with these until we run out of time.
You've got the rune modifiers that have their unique modifier pools now. So I guess you're doing those too.
I was just trying to think of some uniques to talk about, but I can't remember a whole lot of specifics.
Yeah,
so it's one of those find out things.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm wondering what happens if there's like a pair of unique gloves like grants us skill or something like that. What are you going to do with that?
We generally don't touch the skills.
Oh, they'll actually stay there, so you could still use it potentially. Well, that's interesting in its own way too.
Or, like, we're not... Look, having to remake a skill for this is a little bit in the... Okay, I talk about creating work for ourselves. That's not a bang for buck win. So, like, making a new skill of a skill for this, that's a line that would have to be very special to cross. So, maybe in the future, but not right now. Yeah.
Right on. So normally patch notes would be right out after this Q&A, but thankfully we're not holding that hostage today, as that's coming out a week before.
Yeah, so it still needs to be that it's a week before launch because there's still too much that will change between now and then.
Usually going right up until the end.
If you got them now, that'd be inaccurate, and then you'd get disappointed or even happier. Who knows? But too much would just change, and
But maybe we can speak like on the bigger picture intentions, which to some extent we've already been doing a bit, but. Like a classic, another minutes from previous. You've done some buffs to Armour and Evasion, added some new mechanics here and there. Is there any additional love for those on the card in some way, or defenses in general discussion?
Defenses. So we looked at a couple of things. Like the first thing we identified, because I'm all about like just reviewing the fundamentals. Is we're like, okay, we at some point in one of our many millions of spreadsheets. We were like, okay, here's obviously you have an expected amount of how much defense does someone have at a certain point in the game. Now that we have obviously enough players, enough statistics, we went and then had a look, and we were like, oh, people are way low, especially at say between interlude, Act 4, mid game, early in game. People's defenses are significantly lower than what we had deemed as what we wanted them to have. And you can look at that in a few ways. You can say, well, okay, people aren't upgrading gear as much as we wanted or expected. People aren't upgrading, I wouldn't say expected is definitely more of the thing. People aren't maybe taking as many defensive passives as we had expected, etc. And there are obviously many reasons for that. Some of them are garbage. But at the end of the day, right, we balance the game for people to have this much of a defense or this much EHP, and they don't have it. So let's get them to have that amount is our play. So instead of obviously changing, you can either change monster damage at that point, or we can give people more defenses. So we are generally buffing all of the base types on all of the defensive gear, on all armor and evasion, I should say, up to the end of endgame, because like peak characters, there's a lot. You can get a lot. So like we've taken some of the outliers that are the things that make the end game characters have a lot of those defenses and kind of brought them a bit down. So it shouldn't be worse. It should just be the same. But relative to rares, they could be a little bit worse. But yeah, ultimately,
this is mostly from Act 3 onwards, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So more armor and evasion is the start point. We've done a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, I mean, Energy Shield there's a thing where it has too much recovery available, like too easily for recharge, and like we've done a few things. A lot of them are outliers, not necessarily all of them. So we've done a bit of changes to a whole bunch of stuff. But in particular, we're also doing like the deflection equation is honestly kind of not good enough. It's too rewarding for very little investment, and then there's like a kind of weird thing in the formula that I was trying to figure out the other day, but and then for investing beyond that, it's kind of like, well, not worth it. The passive tree nodes are too weak. There's all these clusters there no one cares about, well, mostly. There's other things like the armor applies to elemental, like there's a bit of it. Generally it isn't weak, but I wanted 5 clusters for it. I wanted you to be able to actually invest in it if you were in different parts of the tree. Currently, there's only like 3 nodes that granted in the strength section. It's not enough. And then all the way through to like things like the hybrid section of the passive tree, where normally you have armor in the strength section. Over here you have evasion in the dex section, and then combined you should have both of them on the nodes. And you do for armor and evasion, and then you have I know, big rant here. Then you have things where, like, okay, all the armor and evasion notables are like kind of hyper conditional. Some of them don't even grant armor and evasion, and so there's just like a ton of work across the board. And then those secondary defenses don't generally have hybrid nodes, which they should. So if you're now playing hybrid, you have to double invest in the secondary axes, and so there's just all kinds of just like, honestly, what I would establish as fundamental problems going on here that just need to all be addressed. And, when I look at all of them, I'm like, well, they all are just buffing it. So that's great.
Awesome.
Except for like a little bit of energy shield problems, other hybrid going more northeast, like we looked at all pure evasion versus pure evasion with 1,000 energy shield or more kind of thing, as in a Ghost Dance user.
Yep.
And like the differential in power of using Ghost Dance with 1k ES is just out of control. And I know everyone will be like, make everything like that. That's how this works. We're not going to do that. So like Ghost Dance needs some changes, but then also playing hybrid without that needs to be brought up. So there's a whole bunch. And then also, the highest death rate, just to be clear, and by 300%, is Armour ES, which I don't have an exact plan for yet, but that needs a lot of love.
There's a missing piece of the puzzle there.
Yes, and it's obvious, right? You look at it and you're like, obviously, but it's I don't exactly know what the solution is yet, but we need to do some more love there. But like generally speaking, yes, there's a couple of OP outliers, but everything should be getting raised up for average player, especially mid game, early end game, without having to. And you don't have to. The only way to play it shouldn't be this one very specific node to take this very specific skill, or use this very specific node, or use this very specific unique, and just trying to make it just more broadly like investing in defenses no matter what feels good. And we're not there yet. So anyway, Giga rant. Covered a lot of things there, but anyway.
I saw a few questions about it in chat. It does surprise me a little bit. I thought there was more of a consensus that life on the tree was unpopular, as it was kind of in Path of Exile 1, and it was always deemed as like a tax, like, I guess I got to pay my life node tax. But I'm curious how you obviously removed life from the tree in PoE2 effectively. What led to that decision, and how do you feel about it now, kind of like 0.5 of the way in?
Again, I personally prefer it not being there. Mm-hmm. I think it makes the decisions of what I'm taking on the tree more interesting and where I'm pathing.
To not have it.
I think, to not have it. I think that will increase over time. I think I am less penalized for hunkering down in a certain section, as opposed to having to get this like minimum life percentage threshold by going to certain spots. I think it allows you to be a bit more free, but I also understand why people are asking for it. Especially, like, I see a lot of people comparing life and energy shield, where it's obvious, right? They're both your life pool, but energy shield should be compared to armor and evasion, and obviously they're asymmetric, so I can understand how that can't be so trivial. And I can also understand that when people are dying to a thing and they don't necessarily understand why, the answer is, I need more life. And I get it. But that can not, that it can be that the problem and the solution don't have to be the same thing. Like, there's an obvious path to the solution when you're dying, you're running out of life. But it can be that there are other ways to solve that problem. And when I look at the defenses and just identify fundamental problems, how much of that problem will be solved by just fixing those fundamentals?
You want to make those juicy to take and actually...
Yeah, so I'm not ready just yet to, like, but that doesn't say things like these are off the cards, for sure.
Yeah, I know you've been discussing.
But if the defenses are bad, then we should fix the defenses first, and then see if it's still bad.
Really, I'm just going to follow the trail of bad until, and then we'll see.
It's just that the reason why we don't want to do it is really we just don't want to make it so that, okay, if you don't know to pick life, then you're just going to suck. And this is a thing that PoE1 has, right? If you don't know that you have to pick life. Yeah. If you don't know that, you just die. And we wanted to try and remove like noob traps, right? Of just things where, like, okay, like the things you just have to know. And so ideally we can get to a situation where we just don't,
Thing is, I'd even rather solve it with the more immediate options. So for example, if you're dying a lot and you're like, I need more life, here's a cluster 12 passive points away. It's like, okay, so I got to level 12 more times to now feel a bit stronger. I would rather just immediately go, if you need more life, then the way to get that should be itemization solutions. Like you should be doing it on your gear and that should be something that is readily available via things like essences or various crafting systems. Like, I mean, Runic Ward kind of is that in a way. It's like, I'm dying. Okay, let's add some Runic Ward. Now I'm probably going to die less. Like, I understand it's more of like a campaign, newer player problem kind of thing, but I don't like, I need to be tankier now because I'm dying. I can't overcome this boss. It's all good. I'll be able to solve it 2 days from now if they're playing only like an hour or two a day. So I also just make sure there are immediate solutions to these things as well via itemization. So it might be even that we need to look at that more. I mean, okay, I am looking at that more recently. I was like, damn, a lot of these runes that go in your armor, just because we're doing the martial artist and you get these rune slots. And I was like, okay, in game there's some chase stuff, but these ones in the campaign are just kind of sad. Like there's some sad, like obviously resistances are fine. I got no issue with that, but some of these other armor runes, I'm like, well, that's not okay. I put that in and now I'm like I'm 2% tankier. Like what am I even getting out of this? Like I want to make sure that, so I was looking recently and I'm like, we just need to buff all these armor runes. Like those were meant to be problem solvers for holes in your core stats throughout the campaign. And so even just things like that where it's like, yeah, you should be able to just get a lot more of that just by using defense or armor slot runes, as well as adding new ones, because honestly there's kind of a thin selection and it just ends up being like resistances in most slots until endgame again. Well, even still sometimes just resistances there as well, depends. But yeah, obviously we're adding 160, so that's a big difference. But I wanted to make sure there's a lot more in the campaign, and the campaign ones are buffed as well. So I don't know. There's heaps going on here. It's like hard to nail down to a single problem and a single solution. And I know there's like the easy way out, and we don't like necessarily the easy way out. And I don't want to have to make these kind of compromising decisions that I feel like have made a very good upgrade in many ways. When we have just fundamental problems left, right, and center still. So we'll just keep fixing them, and that's part of, again, this lead up. Like we need to address a lot of these fundamental balance concerns by release, right? This is why we're wanting to do, these intermediary patches, and here on out just like make everything better, plug all the holes, get everything good. Because it's really hard to do that when you're adding 100 new systems and crafting systems at the same time. You're like, okay, we're making holes faster than we can plug them. And it's obviously not that dire. Like most of the time, it's like pretty, things are pretty comfortable. But it's obviously, it's my job to make these good. And so I look at them with a lot more self-criticism. But at the end of the day, we will get it pretty damn good, if not, perfect. Balance is never perfect.
We were talking about yesterday, how do you make the passive skill tree good for launch? Like, how do you get that? Like, what are the problems with it? Because it's something that, like, you're adding more and more cool stuff to it, but at the same time, there's still people that just kind of like don't like the passive tree for some reason, and it's often a lot of different reasons, like the size of it, the travel nodes, the downside nodes.
It takes a lot of massaging to get the tree into a good kind of state, and it's really, really tricky detail work as well. Like the difference of just like one node here, one connection there can like make a huge difference to quite a lot of stuff. So it's just
I've identified, as I said, issues with defenses, there's issues with lack of interesting mechanics and some of those is just due to the absence of classes. Like you'll notice the parts of the tree that have 2 classes for the start point have just generally a lot more going on, because there's a lot more stat design, mechanics design, and stuff that's happened. So that's the thing that expands, and as you get more ascendancy classes, as I said, we're doing the Spirit Walker, all of a sudden companion stuff's going to be a lot more fleshed out. So this is stuff that's just going to happen over time anyway, but we're going to do a big push to try and fill in all those gaps, there's obviously just like a bunch of just terrible clusters. As I said, there's notable armor and evasion notables with no armor and evasion, and they have a stat, but why can't they have like a immune to ailment thing, but why can't they also have armor and evasion? Why must it be only one or the other? And there's all kinds of just things like that kind of everywhere, and it does take time. It does take a lot of like really fine work of going through and tweaking everything, and iteration after iteration after iteration, and But it'll be all right.
I think some of us feel like a little lost on what you need to do, the passive tree, but we walked away from that conversation with you. You seemed pretty confident that you know exactly what you need to do. You're like, give me a day, I'll fix this section. Like
100%. I mean, I did literally say,
pretty confident.
Give me a day and I'll fix one of the slices. And it won't be perfectly fixed because, again, but it'll be, twice, 3 times, 4 times as good. But like getting a day is not exactly entirely trivial, but that's all right. We'll get there. I am confident we'll get there, though. I have no doubt in my mind that I see a road to success there. So it's just a matter of getting there. And yeah, it takes time, and I don't want to make things worse in the meanwhile as well. So obviously knee-jerk reactioning everything in, and sometimes stuff you can't come back from or makes it very hard to come back from can be very dangerous. But I would say that like, if there's any criticisms after 1.0, which there always will be, like, of course, you can't, there's always going to be some finer than others, some broader. It should be significantly less core issues by that point if hopefully the majority of all of them are addressed. So,
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully if we do a couple of cool eventy league economy resets between here and full release, we'll do some substantial passive tree updates as well at the same time. That way we can get a lot of feedback and testing, right? I'm not just going to take a shot in the dark without people being able to get their hands on it. So, which is similar to why we're doing the end game now is very important, because you need a lot of testing and a lot of eyes on that for quality, for just making sure people really enjoy the end game after 10,000 hours, not just, how it looks at the start. There's a lot of time there, and obviously the player base is capable of testing this at a significantly faster rate than we are. And so that's the joy of being able to try and get all this done before the release and have it be as flawless as possible.
Excellent. On the build meta side of things, one of the ones that came up was fire and ignite builds, but kind of like damage over time builds in general. In particular, there's kind of like absence of the pure damage over time build. Like, it seems to be always better to scale the hit damage and treat things like ignite as an add-on. And there seems to be various other problems with ignite as well in terms of like scaling. It seems to be always correct to go like stacking, or in some cases people are saying like, well, the best way to play ignite is chaos damage. Right. So how do you guys feel about kind of like the state of that sort of thing?
Those keystones are always going to have that level of like, one way is quantifiably better than the other in an interesting way, but this obviously is not fully fleshed out or fully right. Like, you can tell while playing this, and we do want to do more. It was number 3 on I had my like top 5. Here's the things I want to fix. So like defenses was number 1. Number 2, I think I actually had some stuff to do with some minion stuff, which, I mean, we've done a lot of itemization for, but I didn't get to do as much as I wanted. We had the Ascendancy classes in there, had Chronomancer in there, and I had, there was like some gemling stuff in there, and we had chaos hits, and, by correlation, Archon, we had Ignite. Like, these are all in I was saying top 5, this is now a top 10 list,
That's
I guess.
More than 5.
But, like, they're all up there, and so as soon as we actually get to haul ass and start fixing all the balance, cool. More than we, have been able to with this patch, given that it's kind of the same resources, trying to ensure endgame is good, and there's quite a bit of overlap there, and with all the crafting systems in the league, like the same resources that are going to be looking at all of these. So as soon as we can get to, as soon as we're like back focused working on the campaign with our core content, monsters, pipeline, etc., and thus doing less systems, we can have those guys come in and just like start fixing all of these balance systems.
Is the intention to get to there being builds that are like the pure dot feel, like where you don't really have the upfront hit damage, so you dual flame blast and then it's just pure ignite, that sort of thing?
Oh, like the whole spreading wildfire ignite fantasy 100% needs to be a thing where you're just doing like, cool. There is the thing where, like, when you take away hits, things can lose a lot of satisfaction, but there is a different kind of satisfaction of just watching the world burn around you or decay around you. So, you trade one for another, and different players have their different preferences, but 100% that is something that we want to support. We had a bunch of keystones in mind for enabling it. We had different supports that we thought we could try to enable it. It's just a matter of being time to execute it. So I would be very, very surprised if it doesn't come in one of these interim patches between here and full release, though, to at least some degree.
With that wanting to get things right for 1.0, there's I have a feeling that like 1.0 is like where you get to establish like here's the baseline of what the game is supposed to look like, and that's what you were saying with Endgame, indeed. So I kind of wonder about like how you feel about a few things and how close they are to where you want them to be for that game's foundation thing. One of them is the pace of combat, especially in Endgame maps across the build spectrum. So like from the lower end build to the really high end builds that are just currently like 100 move speed through maps.
It's a really tricky question because like people get such different experiences here. I mean, like there are definitely a few, like part of the issue that we have is that people often judge things by watching streamers who are often playing something that's completely cracked and out of control.
Sure.
And so people don't get an understanding of what the average player is actually experiencing. And it can even like affect like our designers in some ways because like, yeah, when you look at people and they're just like completely trivializing things, it's easy to forget that the average player isn't like, is actually taking a lot longer. And when I say average, like the true average is like way worse than you might expect in terms of the number of minutes that it takes them to kill bosses and so on. Like, like it's easy. Yeah, it's easy to look at it and be like, oh yeah, like everyone's killing bosses in 5 seconds. But really, there's a lot of people out there who aren't.
So do you feel pretty good about the lower end of things, but less good about the higher end of things?
Well, I mean, there's things that need to come up as well, for sure. But it's more just that, like, okay, like, there's some things that are a bit out of control with, like, on the top end, like, there's some of the stuff going on with triggering, and like is a bit out, it's a bit out of control. And so there's stuff like that, and like as I said, I think a lot of people judge the pace of combat from things like that. So like I guess that's
ultimately it comes down to if you have a mage blood or equivalent, you should be cracked.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I've said before that the ideal situation is the first time you fight a pinnacle, it should be a pretty damn tough fight. But then after that, you're getting more stuff. You like the post pinnacle content of getting uniques and like pretty like leads to like craziness, and then you feel like a complete god. Like you do want to get to that point. It's just that like there's just
By the way, I have made a change in that regard, by the way, which I know will be nice for some people. Every boss where you've had to farm for the fragment and go through 60 maps and you finally got there does now have infinite attempts.
Nice.
So once you've earned it, unless you decide to log out and
I thought we did that in 040.
We did it for some things and not for others.
Right. Okay.
It's just
So
it is across the board now. If you've done all that, you can try. Well, you can try it. You can die 150 times and keep going. But of course, if you just like let your instance time out and die, that's a different story. So if you go to bed, sorry, my bad.
Go to bed defeated and failed.
I would still love to be able to do that, so that if you log back in, like the next day, you're still there and able to do it. But there's a slight technology gap there for maps right now. But I know that's just it's. The whole the reason I bring that up is because that whole like, I don't want to fight the pinnacle yet because I might fail it, and or fight the end boss.
And then what that leads to is that you only do it once you've over prepared.
Yeah, and then like first encounter is disappointing. I've done that
exactly.
Before,
So that's the reason.
You're like, that was kind of lame.
Yeah.
It's not what you want. You want to go in early and have an uphill battle the first time, don't you?
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess what I'm trying to say there is that I think that like. That the pace of combat is correct in many instances. It's just that there are some things that then lead to that being bananas. But then you still want it to be bananas after the point where you've done that. So it's just a question of the power progression needs to be right. In terms
Sounds
of
like if anything, you just want a wide spectrum and just tuning some certain points of that.
For sure.
There's crazy things you see where even when you go and ask a lot of our designers, you're like, how long do you reckon the average boss fight takes? And you specify a boss. You're like, how long do you reckon the average? I don't know what's a random boss. That killing the Forsaken Sun takes, let's say. And like, honestly, I would say my experience at this point with understanding how to gear my character and build my build at that point, sometimes it's honestly 8 seconds and sometimes it's 20 seconds. And it's like, is it ever really more than that? Yeah. And then you're like, and then you get that with obviously a lot of our designers play and a bunch of people. And then you go and actually look at the stats and you're like, oh, it's 119 seconds average. That's 2 minutes. That's what we intended for it to be.
Yeah.
And so the average across and that's the average, which means there's some people taking 4 minutes and whatnot. And so it's actually like, the numbers are not as bad. And it turns out if you know what you're doing and you are good and you play a lot, you kind of kill things quickly. I know a lot of people might be like, you should have that be flatter because what the hell, an 8-second fight's not necessarily fun, right? You're not engaging with any mechanics and stuff. And some people are like, nah, if you're that powerful, you're that powerful. And if you know what you're doing, have it be that fast, right? So it's a bit of thing where some people want the way less variance between character power, but also then that feeds into the end game of, you want characters that feel like gods among gods, right? Like you can do that, but it is, again, just comes back to who, do you have item X, item Y, item Z of different kinds? So when things are too cheaply OP, as in almost free, and I don't mean economically, I mean like as in your general time to earn, generally that has to come down.
Yeah. And I think that really is the message overall of like, if it cost you a lot, then you can be a god. If it didn't cost you very much, maybe that's going to be something that we would consider nerfing.
So Leech.
Yeah. I was going to ask, that's my next one, the state of recovery, especially because like really fast life recovery tends to lead to situations where in combat the only thing that matters is the thing that kills you instantly. So how do you feel about recovery overall?
So we're definitely unhappy with Leech. And this is one of those things where we attempted to simplify it from PoE 1 because PoE 1 had the most complicated Leech thing in the history of the universe.
So funny.
And so we're going to simplify it. We're going to try and make it simpler. But unfortunately, the simpler thing has not led to a good result. And so now Leech is, it's a bit of a problem. So we are changing it drastically. Like, are we fine with telling people how it works now? Like, we could go into it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all right. So basically, the key thing that we're first changing is we're going to a single source method of doing Leech, which means there's only one Leech buff active. So whatever is the biggest hit that you did, like you're only leeching from one place, and that obviously then means that we need to change all the balance of Leech and everything like that to make that work. But it does mean that. There's a difference between there's more of a thing with like life gain on hit versus Leech is like a thing between like fast hitting and slow hitting builds. Like higher hits are going to lead to more Leech. But the other thing we're changing as well, and this is just kind of to retain the idea. Like, so one thing we liked about what we had was that when you get more Leech percent, you do get more Leech. But the thing is that the way that damage scales, like it just gets completely cracked at some point, and like it gives you insane amounts. So effectively, what we want to do is add a cap to the amount of damage that Leech will consider when calculating how much Leech you get. So I don't know what that number will be. Like, I don't even know what order of magnitude it is, right? But let's just say that it's like 1 million or something, right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's less than that.
Yeah, it's hard to say what that number is. It's more that there's a goal of the kind of expected rate per second you get for various levels.
Effectively, there'll be a number that's like 1 million or 100,000 or some number, right? That'll be like, okay, like after when we go to calculate Leech, we're first capping your damage to that. Like, you're still doing the damage, by the way, but like just for the Leech calculation, and then we apply your Leech percent to that. And what that will mean is that it's always the case that getting more Leech will give you more recovery, right? Like if you double the percent on your character, you get double the recovery. So there's no like capping thing like that, but it just means that
life
exactly. But then at some point, like getting more damage isn't increasing your recovery,
right?
And that's like the key thing that we need to
that's what you're trying to disentangle.
So, and I mean, the intention really is to sort of get it so that like a typical character who's like investing in Leech actually cares. It's like they're able to recover their entire life orb in like 3 seconds or something like that. Like that's the kind of thing, right? And you could go further than that with like even more investment, but it's probably like not worthwhile compared to other stuff. And then like other characters who aren't investing are going to get less than that sort of thing. But like you do actually have to like we don't want it to be so ridiculous that that's the only like source of recovery you would ever need.
Because it's now capped, we can give a lot more Leech early as well, because that was kind of a bit dead. If you're not dealing significantly high damage.
So then we get to buff all those values. And that
obviously, some people know about Leech resist on monsters. Like currently you leech less from a white or magic monster than, say, a unique monster, because the assumption was you're hitting many, you're AoEing. Right. Now you only get one instance that's flat,
and then that means that Leech will be more consistent between boss fights versus not boss fights, which is another thing. I think a good thing. Like you kind of can rely on that in some level.
But if you have all the affixes, you got some investment, you could anywhere between 20, maybe up to 40, 50% of your life recovery per second.
That's where you're aiming
which
for.
Is obviously still pretty fast, but we're removing some of the instant Leech just because obviously that's then bypassing that.
It's funny though, because I remember you coming to me at one point and you were like, either we can nerf like all these skills by 10 times or we can nerf Leech. Like that was the thing that you were saying.
It's part of the just like damage begets recovery, which also begets energy triggering, and like it just feeds into itself, and then you have characters getting 3 million% of their life per frame.
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, while
And
triggering
this is part of the meta skill equation as well.
infinite triggering per frame, and it's just like, what are you supposed to do? And hence the 200 million DPS, like infinite comet, infinite recovery, and immortality builds, you know?
The Leech explanation sounds like complicated, and it kind of is on the back end, but the player-facing side of it is now just that you get a Leech percentage, and that's the only affix.
Yep.
And you get more of it, you get more. Like,
For
there's no
most
other...
people, you get a mod, and now your life starts recovering.
So it's very
honestly
simple.
better than before.
And more importantly, and better than before, but also importantly, doubling it doubles the amount of life you're getting.
Yes.
You know, so like, there's a lot of calculation going on to achieve that.
Very simple
but the one player-facing thing that is important to know is that there is a point beyond which getting more single-hit damage is not going to increase the amount of recovery you're getting.
Yeah.
So at some point, obviously, getting damage gives you damage, but at some point, getting damage is less valuable than getting more Leech investment if you are simply wanting Leech investment.
Okay. Interesting. All right. There's obviously going to be some adjustments there for people to...
For sure. It's a big change.
With the meta skills and custom crit comets and things like that, and their interactions with these various things.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's going in 0.5, this stuff, for people to figure out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Go test it out. It's all fully changed internally. Feel free to go have a look at it.
Oh, all right. and with that, so like I mentioned, the part of the core problem ultimately is that you, aside from the meta skill stuff, you're... if you're recovering so quickly, then things have to kill you very quickly. Does that allow you to look at things that are killing very quickly then, once you start to feel like recovery is getting a bit more under control?
Well, part of that, I mean, that folds into the whole, the defenses and everything thing. But like, outliers are outliers for sure. I mean, obviously some stuff is intended to mess you up. It's kind of the point. But, you know, it all folds into the same, be it recovery, full life, one-shots, characters having significantly lower defenses than we anticipated, tools for getting more life via runes, like all of that folds into the same problem here of, if you're absent of all of these tools and you don't know how to do the like very, you know, I guess the meta strategies, then you sometimes are just going to get obliterated by things. So I'm just hoping like, obviously, that Leech is a case of bringing down the top end, but I think more the defense is bringing up the defensive tools, like i.e. body, armor runes, etc., runic ward, everything. All of this is going to help contribute to, ideally, things feeling more fair. And, of course, as expected, though, if anything's just, like, one-shotting you and you don't think the telegraphing's enough, you just let us know, because, like, you know... It might be on our radar, but it might not be on our urgent radar, and maybe we need to do something about it. Like, we have improved a lot of these things, either via increasing telegraphing or lowering damage. Like, we had problems with a whole number of skills, especially early. I'd say the number of those is dwindling, but they're still there, and obviously we might add some new ones on accident. But, you know, just keep telling us about that stuff 100%. It's not the intention. I mean, the important thing is things feel fair, less so than damage one way or the other. So, you know, if you're getting insta-killed by something you couldn't even see coming, that is a problem. We're obviously adding a ton of new pinnacles and all of that, and we're going to do our best to get everything as well telegraphed and as, you know, the correct damage output and everything. But, you know, we miss things, and if things feel unfair, just raise the alarm.
All right. With that, we'll change topic a little bit to Endgame, and I've seen it getting asked a lot with Temple going core. Is there any major changes there to how Temple snaking works, especially?
We had to get rid of the snake strategy. It caused a lot of problems. We actually had a solution for the snake strategy, the proper solution, as it were, that we wanted to do right after the league launched. Like, it was actually I was actually on holiday, and like I was like, okay, I need to like fix the snake strategy. But the problem is, the one that we came up with is that we felt like it would be a mid-league nerf if we deployed it. So we made like a few band-aid fixes, but it wasn't really the correct strategy. And ultimately what the snake strategy is it comes about because there are rooms that the game wants to delete, but it can't delete them because it would disconnect the temple. And so what we've got as a solution to that effectively is that if that would happen, then it will just create an empty room there that still connects it up, but isn't the room that you had there before. And that just means that there's no incentive to kind of do those weird strategies anymore, which should result in all of the weird, really broken stuff from happening. Like, you can kind of take it more at face value because you don't have to worry about this like particular way of organizing things to be able to, you know, to be able to do well.
And to be clear, the current like snaking is resulting in what we deem as 1,000% unacceptable levels of item drops.
Yeah,
Like,
the item drops are out of control due to that.
out of control.
But there was just there's always the situation when you've got the stuff where like we would love to nerf it, but you can only nerf something like that if it hasn't gotten too out of containment before you nerf it.
Yeah.
Because the moment that people feel like 10% of the player base have like gotten, well, then I can't do it. And, like you're pulling the ladder up behind them and that kind of stuff.
Exactly,
Like it just doesn't feel good. So
the whole thing.
we just sort of had to let it be. And the thing that sucks about it is that it can make people's perception of what the correct level of item drops is to be incorrect, and that can then mean that like when we don't have the like bananas temple loot going on, that people might not be as happy with that, but it'll be a thing there, like, you know, 1 league down the line after they've forgotten about that part. it'll be okay. But yeah, like that was it was out of control and we didn't love it. That being said, like there are also some. Did you get the extra reward stuff for the reward rooms? Is that
we've done some buffs to the reward rooms.
So basically, just like if you play it conventionally, there's some buffs to the rewards when you're like for the stuff that was like pointless to do before. So in particular, the reward rooms that you get for killing the architects, like those weren't good enough. We want to make sure, you know, so people weren't even bothering.
There was a strategy where people were using those to like get quick at Zeri runs and stuff as well, and we fixed that problem. There's a bunch of algorithmic problems with like how rooms get deleted or decide to get deleted or swapped that have been changed such that there's not like some of these weird, you know, they got to the point of being honestly a little bit exploitative to the point it's like, oh, I hate that I have to do this thing.
We certainly don't want anything where people feel like I have to do this weird thing that I don't enjoy doing in order to get the most rewards. Like that's the key thing we want to. Yeah, because of course they will do it, right? Because that's the most rewards.
Couple cool things. The Atlas tree now applies to the temple.
Cool.
Right. Whole thing. And we're obviously relevant. There are some cases where obviously there's no summoning circles in there, you know. And obviously it has its own Atlas tree now, now that it's core, and its own entire quest line on the Atlas. We can go there and do the thing.
There's a place where it physically is.
It's like you get all the points, and there's parts of the tree that are blocked behind killing the architects. So you're getting like little unlocks and stuff like that.
There's supposed to be little districts in the city where like you kill the architects, and now this district is unlocked, and you can go in there and little things. There's just little things.
Sort of exploring that. Very nice. Yep. Production, could I request a brief intermission for us so we don't have to rush the rest of the endgame discussion? We'll be right back, folks.
Okay.
Firstly, I'm very happy to see that the world looks like an actual world now.
Yes.
It's an atlas, an actual map. It's where you go and do exploration. So was this kind of the goal for the outset when you were making this whole world map style atlas from the beginning?
Well, okay. I think that I didn't realize when we were making it the importance of having those fixed locations, like knowing where things are.
Okay.
And so it's like we wanted it to feel like there was a world of stuff to explore, but I think that we did make a mistake in not necessarily like realizing that, you know, it is important that you can get your bearings and that kind of stuff initially. So having the fixed points like has worked even better than I expected, honestly. Like I was a little bit worried it would make it feel like too samey every time, but honestly it's really cool. Like in all of those points of interest, like I don't know if we really showed it like how easy it is to sort of get to the things, but it's usually to get to one of the league things. It's only like 4 or 5 maps away from the sign location. Like when I was first showing it to you when you first arrived, like, you know, like you do just go like I started with it just all fog of war there, and I'm like, okay, if you just go down this way a little bit, then you get into the breach area, and if you just go like, you know, right a little bit, then look, there's these abyss cracks here and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And the other thing is as well is just like, you know, the fact that there's like a giant ocean to one side means you just got your bearings. We're like, okay, we're on the edge of the continent here, like this is where we are. And we did even try to sort of think, okay, well, like in the physical Rayclast map, you know, like this is the direction in which like all of the, you know, the temple of, you know, the Zeri's temple and everything of Laraval was, and like, so we're going to put it in that direction. We try to sort of like have our bearings so that all those things are sort of like have some kind of real world analog, which is pretty cool. And there's even, if you go far enough into the ocean, you will find Oriath over there.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
Which has the beast is you know, the apocalypse is there. So it doesn't actually do anything. Like there's not a reason, but it's like we wanted it to feel more like this is actually
like
like
5 and 6 for that. Right?
Yeah. So it'll change later once we've got the rest of the campaign in. But
that blew my mind though. That you can just go in the ocean as long as you pick the exact right direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of more of an Easter egg than anything. The fact that it's there, but we do want it to feel like it is Rayclast that you're exploring. That this is like, you know, like things are at least broadly where they're supposed to be, and you know, like while it is like the biomes and stuff like that are all randomly generated. Like what maps are there randomly generated. Like the initial layout of where the landmarks are is is really nice.
We could have like a world first race to Oriath or something like that.
I don't know, maybe.
Expedition race, so you can get over there first.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I think before, when you first started Endgame, you just kind of ran maps, and it took dozens of maps for anything to kind of
Happen.
interesting.
Yes,
to start
I agree.
happening.
I agree. And now we want that to be way shorter. So, like, the first time you open the Atlas, like, there's towers that rise out of the ground, and like, there's a quest marker right there to do that. But you don't have to do that, right? You can go a different direction, and pretty soon you'll run into like a breach or something, and then you'll be an NPC. Like within 1 or 2 maps, there'll definitely be an NPC telling you, "Hey, look over here," and like, it'll appear in the fog of war. You'll see there's a quest marker. You're like, "Oh, right, there's something over that way." Like that's the kind of experience that we want to have, of like feeling like you are exploring, like a kind of, like, I guess it's more of a sort of, it's funny because it's a little bit, in a way, it's sort of a bit more like that sort of open world game design that you would get from a kind of open world game, except it's on a kind of like Atlas level. So you need to be thinking, get that feeling of like, but there's points of interest and stuff to find and that sort of stuff. And not only that, but we did want to make the kind of the infinite part, like once you have done all the quest lines, the infinite part needs to be more interesting too. So now what we have is all of the leagues are adding Atlas mechanics, right? Like, so you've got things that, and I guess that's one of the other things I really want to make sure people are aware of, is like all the leagues do have things that interact with the Atlas in interesting ways. So like, you've got the Delirium fog thing where you're spreading fog over, and the positions of things matter, and where you pick to do it will matter, and
actual
like that sort of stuff. Actual abyss cracks that close on the Atlas is really cool. Like I really like that one. That was one of those that people thought I was a bit crazy when I suggested that one, but it's one of those things that's just it's just really cool.
No, it's crazy.
So it's fun to come up with those kinds of mechanics for leagues and think about how they can escalate and so on. But it also adds like another sort of deeper layer to everything too, because one of the big issues we had with all of the leagues was that they had kind of like their mechanic, but they didn't have like, and here's how the mechanic changes and here's how it evolves, and like there wasn't kind of a lot of that going on with those initial 0-1-0 early access leagues. And it's really adding all that extra depth that like makes an actually interesting thing. And like part of the reason why we identified that is because like when we came to write a quest line for them, we're like, well, there actually isn't enough here to write a quest line for.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Like there just kind of wasn't really stuff enough to do. So it's like we have to add a bunch more to make it so a quest line is reasonable to do. And so the quest line actually sort of drove in some ways like the making sure that there is an evolution that happens across the course of every league. And I guess that really does set the standard now for what you have to make a league for PoE 2. Like that it's going to have things like that and mechanics like that.
It seems like you're really trying to min-max the breadcrumbing here in particular, because like you leave the town, like literally the second map is a tower, and then like 3-4 maps after that is the gate of the giant fortress.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, we want you to get to that stuff quickly, right? And the funny thing is that it also, like what we said earlier about how the different sort of amount of time it takes for like the average player versus what people believe is the average, like it really does need to be that minimal number of maps to make that happen, because for some people, like they're taking a long time to complete maps, right? Like, like if it's taking like 7 to 15 minutes in some cases to do a map, like you don't want it to be multiple hours of gameplay to get to the first.
Even that's fast by the average.
Yeah, and it's like we don't want it to be hours and hours later when you finally get to one of these things. So it really does need to be just a few maps. And obviously, if you're a fast map runner, you're going to just blaze through that real quickly. But you do need to sort of consider, what that experience looks like if it's the first time, because a lot of this questifying stuff is for people who don't even know what's in the end game. Like an issue you'd have with a first time player before is you'd go in the end game. It's like, is there even anything out there? Like you don't even know, right? So it's like you need those kind of like a few guideposts to even get you started to be like, okay, well, like here's some stuff that I might be able to find.
Yeah, and even if you don't go like that tower into the fortress,
you can go another way.
Literally pick any direction. Like, because that was the thing that surprised me the most when you were showing me by kind of like revealing the map, was like you literally can't pick a direction and miss.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You will hit something no matter which way
basically,
you go.
It actually made like the Ray class situation look. This Ray class situation is crazy. It looked pretty dire. You're like basically surrounded all sides. It's like you look one side and there's like a giant breach for shrunken areas. There's like a freaking abyss over there.
Just wait till like 5 years from now.
I know, right? Because now whenever you add a new thing, you add it as a spot on that.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to do a bit of rearranging to make sure that the newest stuff is like close to the center, and there's like the ring outside that, which has got some of the lesser known stuff you can kind of snake out to get to.
Like weird passive tree situation where there's like stuff further out and stuff in closer, and that's that is going to be wild. But it also kind of helps solve that problem a bit, because like I sometimes go back and I play like a game that's been around for a long time, and the way that usually they're like 10 years worth of content is presented is like a giant menu.
No. And it's definitely much cooler that you find it.
It's very difficult to engage with that. But here it's physical places in a world. So it's kind of almost solved by the fact that you have to travel to them to start interacting with them in some capacity.
Yeah, I would say so.
So it's kind of a nice solution.
I mean,
for that as well.
but yet all of them do have events that will occur that will direct you there and like reveal it on the map and show you that it's there as well.
Yeah.
If you do find that in the so you sort of get quests.
We have a few things as well, though. Like, it's a lot, but I also don't want people to feel like, oh, I have to do all of it every time.
Yeah.
And there are different ways. Obviously, I think we mentioned the way to shortcut the fortress completion. Like, if you just want to, obviously, there's a big grid, a tree of nodes, right? So you can go like path of least resistance to all that. This is if you're good.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you're repeating, good build. Like, just beeline towards that, go to that, go to that, go to that, kill the bosses, kill the pinnacle, right? You've now done the quest line, and now just go out into the infinite and go and farm, or maybe go do one of the other leagues, or two of the other leagues, whatever, and then go out and farm. And every time you then get a set of citadels, you kill the thing, you can then auto-complete a section of the fortress.
And that unlocks a big chunk of
And it'll
passes.
just be like ding, 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 and complete all the maps, and you're like, all right, sweet, there's my 15 points, allocate. And so you don't have to just like hunker down and sit in the fortress for like forever.
Yeah.
Right?
We were really concerned that what would happen is like you'd kill the boss and you're like, oh, now I have to do all these maps in here like to just finish it off. So we wanted to make sure there was a shortcut for that stuff. So if you didn't do all that stuff while you were going there, so if you're a new player and you don't like burning through the tiers that quickly, that number of maps is intended to be the number that you'd need to be able to do for like a sort of an average player who hasn't done it before to be able to tear up to get to like to get to T5 to get into this part of the fortress and then
If you're
get
doing everything in that
yeah exactly. So like it's kind of designed to be like for the players who are normal, but if you're a player who like really knows how to tear up really quick, then you can just like beeline to the quest objectives really quickly and get through that very quickly. And I guess one of the things that we wanted to do as well, even just for the regular leagues, is like if you're like an actual like a player, like we sort of imagine it's like a night of gaming is what it's going to take you to like do one of the quest lines.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I don't mean like a like half an hour. I mean like like a solid night of gaming.
A couple hours.
A few hours, right? Like of gaming is enough to kind of get like a sort of a fairly reasonable player through one of those quest lines.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of that can be like your goal for the night. And then the fortress might be like a couple more initially, but I mean for the good players, they're just going to be able to they can obviously get through the stuff really quick because they know how to burn through every map really quick and that kind of thing.
So with the fortress, so how many roughly passives is there on that core Atlas tree that you want?
It's more than 300, I believe.
Okay, so that's like 300 maps within the fortress.
No, but it isn't because some of them give you more than 1 point.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, so we actually initially had it, so the number of points on the tree was the same as the number of points in the fortress. But the problem was that we found that
That's a ton of maps.
Yeah. Like, the number of maps that was too many.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, we need to do some like things here so that the Atlas tree can be bigger than what the fortress is.
Roughly know what it is, like 100, 150 or something?
I actually don't remember what the number in there is.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number
but yeah, like we sort of wanted to make it so that it wasn't onerous.
There's a few options there as well if we want.
Yeah.
If we want. We haven't yet, based on testing really, is what is technically it doesn't have to be every map gives you a point. It can be the first X map give you point. Like, as in technically you can fully allocate the tree
and then you
and
could avoid
complete
some
it.
layouts or whatever you don't
It's
like
just
as well.
if we needed to do that, we've got lots of levers to be able to flexibly just go, okay, this is like way
We
too
don't want the
long,
fortress to feel like a chore though. That's like really important.
Well,
so we're
that's what I was going to say. Is like I was a little worried that would be the case, but you showed me that there's there's these little icons over the top of the maps, and that wasn't all of them. Like what was shown in the footage was actually you hadn't done the list yet. It was like half of them or something. But what surprised me, so these are adding like things like, every rare monster in the map is an essences, or monstrous treasure, or rogue exiles are fighting each other and you're hunting them down and stuff like that. So all this other cool stuff. And what I was surprised to learn was that these are actually all individual unique things. Like there's they're not being repeated inside of the fortress.
Yes.
There's one of each of those things.
Exactly. So all of those mechanics are things that, there's one-offs. And so if you auto-complete that part of the fortress, you're effectively losing that for this run. But they do appear out in the infinite as well sometimes to kind of make the infinite farm part kind of more interesting.
But this is like really interesting. So like even in PoE 1, as good as that endgame is, which is really, really good, is it kind of takes like 30, 40 maps before you start getting like stuff to being in your maps all the time, right? You've got the scarabs, you've got enough points, but here you've almost created like an end game Atlas area of maps that you can do, but that's preloaded with scarabs
effectively,
almost.
Yes. And then as you do that, you're effectively then loading it more with the Atlas tree, so that when you do the infinite farm, you've kind of got more of that stuff there.
So when you run out of that, then you've got your passive tree fully filled out and everything.
And the passive tree does add a lot, and of course you allocate all of it now, so it's like changed quite a lot how the passives work. We have had to do some work to the on the level design side to make it so that the maps can support more of the of those kind of mechanics and so on as well, because like for people, because you've got like especially after juicing and everything, like that can be quite a lot.
A bit too much, was it?
Yeah.
Speaking of things like the completion, there's a few other little bits where people are like, oh, I've got to do every league tree. Like, that's a lot, right? Because that's the same thing. You don't want to be too chore-like. But reality is, there's a few changes around this. So let's say you do the fortress or you do the infinite and auto-complete it after doing the quest line, and then you do just delirium. Now you can run 3 delirium tablets, and it will scale all 3, and you can just go do that for the rest of your life. And the thing is, people will be like, oh, but breach can randomly spawn, and then I have to get the breach tree, otherwise I'm not invested in it.
Yes, we have changed how this works.
And once you're so effectively your area can support 3 leagues, and juice versions of it. And so when you force 3 delirium tablets, it won't spawn other leagues.
So effectively, by putting a tablet, but what putting a tablet in does is lock what that league will be, thus preventing the other leagues from spawning, which means that you don't have a situation where by not doing a certain league, you're losing out on potential juicing, because you've effectively made sure that like you're going to get the specific content you want. So you can do that, or you can still leave it wildcard by using the generic
irradiated. Says will wildcard the leagues.
Yeah.
Can you still mix and match
Of course, yeah. You can still do exactly right. And
you could do breach delirium if you want 2/3 breach, 1/3 delirium. You can do whatever. You combine it.
Like a greater level of control over this than previously.
But what it means is that if you just want to all in on 1, you can. If you want to all in on 2, you can. If you want to go 3, you can. And if you want to get them all on wildcard, you can do that.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And part of this that I was a little bit worried as well, that you were like the physicality of the map is really cool, but I was a bit worried that the downside of that would be that, you'd be removing this ability to focus on things.
No, you definitely can.
Yeah, okay. And in particular, I was worried about the breachstone thing, because I was like, if you want to use a breachstone, you have to find one of those things on the map to put it in. Does that mean you can only farm a boss if you physically have one of those locations on the map?
But no, all of the pinnacle keys are all tradable, so you can do that stuff.
And if you have 20 of those keys, you can just do the boss 20 times.
Yeah, exactly. So the bosses are all in the so each of the leagues has a kind of hub that where the leagues, and that happens like in its physical location, right? So there's the and the hub is where you use the pinnacle keys in order to fight the pinnacle boss. So that means that if you want to do them back to back, you just go to the hub, run 20 bosses. That's fine.
Once you've done the quest line one, you can then farm it as much as you want if you trade. The other thing that we've done is, so breach is unique in that regard, because in order to kill the penultimate boss to get the ticket to the ultimate boss, you do need the biome. Now you can buy the key after. Right, that's completely fine, and you can buy the breach stone, but that one is unique in that you do need to go find those biomes, or someone has to go find those biomes. So that one is a bit unique in that regard. But for some of these leagues also, for example, simulacrums, like you do deliriums, you get this grand mirror, you apply the fog, and there's a simulacrum in there. We do still drop simulacrum splinters, and a lot less of them. And once you finally get that item, instead of that item now just going in the realm gate because that's gone, what that does is allows you to turn a map into a simulacrum on your atlas. And so that will give you an extra key. And so there are some ways, the expectation is that you complete the quest line and experience all that before you complete a simulacrum, but later in the game when you're farming, there's actually alternate ways to get access to more of these. And so we have that for a few of the leagues. I can't remember exactly which ones do and don't because it's asymmetric, but some of them are like trying to counter that. So it's a thing with breach where if we're finding a breach stone versus breach biome imbalance, we can do a thing where once you've finished the quest line, you can start getting splinters towards pinnacles without necessarily having to do that. Or maybe there's some other mechanic where you can create a breach biome, in the fog of war that way. So mechanically create it, reveal one that definitely was there the whole time, and go over there and do that. So there are tools we have to be able to do all this, but breach is relatively unique in that regard. The others are less problematic, but just trying to have different ways.
One of the things that is fun with those ones though is that there's reasons generally to pick one area of the atlas versus another. Like they're kind of subtle, but like we should have tried to explain that with the delirium one, where there's certain emotions that only come from certain mat boss classes. So what that means means is that you're like, okay, if I want to be able to get this emotion, then I'm like, I want to find this type of map to put it on. So then that I get that. So there's little hidden things like that the
biomes actually matter.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that we can do too.
Cool.
And so picking where to do the Rite of the Nameless can and where to do the delirium, things like that. Ideally, that stuff should be something you actually do have a little bit to think about. Because it can affect the rewards a little bit.
Yeah, right. Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, it's impossible to say, put an hours of gameplay estimate on Endgame for Path of Exile because it's, like you said, it's so variable. But how would you say some of the endgame milestones for Period 2 now, line up with maybe the milestones from Period 1 that we're a bit more familiar with? So, for example, getting to the Fortress Pinnacle boss, unlocking your full tree, so getting that full clear of the Atlas, if that's the clear goal. Filling up those nice new progress bars for the league mechanics. Where do those kind of pan out?
So it's definitely intended that the kind of completing the fortress is supposed to sort of be analogous to doing Atlas completion in PoE 1. It's like a kind of similar thing. That you're the similar type of goal.
It is almost like a PoE 1 Atlas on the map.
Yeah, a little bit like that. So
if you can get enough tiers, it's 45, 50 maps to kill the pinnacle if you can.
Okay.
Right? Which is honestly not, that out of control. Now, that's not Fortress complete. That's that main quest line complete, right?
Yeah.
It's, you think you've got a big square with 2 ramparts. You're just going up to this thing, up, over this thing, up, and then to the middle, and then out to the back, kill the thing in the middle, right? And you just follow this path, the shortest path to it. If you can do it, go for it. It's fine. It's entirely up to you. Which again, good players generally will be able to. 40, 50-ish there. And as you said, the first the ziggurat to the fortress wall, pretty short distance. It's right there and then right there. Let's say Breach. I'm just giving some examples just to give some people some context. Breach is the closest biome to the ziggurat, the closest start. So you just, if you went tower, what is it? 5 maps over to Breach.
Nah, it's less than that, I think.
It's four, sure. Yeah. Then you do a few breaches. You don't have to do that many. She gives you the first breach stone. You use the breach stone. You do. You can probably minimum 1 hive, 1 sky hive, and then the boss. Now, this is the problem that we run into a bit here, where I have level restricted the bosses.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can actually do this too fast.
I don't want you to just do a tier 3.
It's tier restricted.
Yeah, tier restricted. Tier, not character level, yes.
Yeah.
As in, you do need some waystone period. So if you just go shortest path there, you're probably going to find you don't have the waystones. But if you know what you're doing, you can obviously get pretty far pretty quickly. And then you can kill the breach lords, and then you can immediately do the pinnacle as soon as, because we've level waystone tier restricted the penultimates. But that's breach in the fortress, whereas over to the left of the ziggurat you've got breach, slightly further across is delirium, so +5 maps. Even that maybe ritual +5 on that. +5, and then the what is it, 8. Honestly, it's probably only 8 maps you have to do, 9 maps or something within each. And I'm talking absolute. If you're just zoom into the end,
So, the early versions of the endgame, the thing definitely burned me out was just the sheer amount of time it took to just travel through maps. I was even coming up with theory crafts for ideas of what if there was one of these travel maps that really fast. So it seems like there's just so much less of that now.
Definitely. And I mean, that's the experience you're going to get if you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, it's going to take longer because you're okay, I need to be able to put up this. I'm not juicing it as much. I'm not doing all this.
Well, at that
stuff,
point, when you're in that position, you're focusing on the actual content you're doing, not your goal so much, because you don't have the experience for that anyway.
Yeah.
King's March is a bit further away.
It is. Being on the coast, it kind of, if it had put it too close, it would have restricted the other things that can go there. So we've got a sort of slightly longer lines that to shorten the distance to get to King's March.
So it's not as many maps.
Yeah, so it's not as many maps as what it would be for the normal conventional distance.
Right. Yeah.
But it is a couple of extra maps further than some of the others.
The cool thing is, because it's now quest lined, as soon as you get to King's March, you're given the first logbook.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
So you just instantly reveal a whole section of ocean, start mapping.
Islands.
You're getting 15 to 20 maps per logbook, give or take. You can if you did just want to explore, like, let's say the logbook you placed didn't spawn the chase thing you're looking for, you can just shortest path to, the edge and then reveal another, and you can go
Check another logbook and
up,
go again.
sideways, up it's just a big grid of squares.
A logbook's tradable thing, like if you want to blast through that.
Yeah, the quest ones are not, like,
Obviously,
which,
yeah.
by the way, you get your first logbook, it spawns a guaranteed island with a quest marker. You complete that, it gives you your second logbook.
Because the start's questified, right?
So the first
therefore,
one, yeah,
therefore you
the
can get through those bosses and stuff like that with the first 4 logbooks.
So it actually takes you all the way to the boss as part of the quest.
Because, as I said, because now what we're doing is every single quest line takes you to the pinnacle boss, right?
so-
Like there's no randomness in the ability to do that,
Because it is the active league, in particular, the Runes of Aldur pinnacle is more maps than some of those other biomes.
Alright.
Because it also it doesn't have a tree, right? Because it is the active league.
Right.
And it has just a lot more generally going on in many different ways. So it itself is a bit more, there's more going on.
But then when it's not the active league, we can then, like get that to be more like in line with the others and that kind of thing.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this to play it so much. But funny thing is though, like I heard you talking about very recently this idea of like it's actually good to have a quitting point. Stepping off point, and this seems to be tackling that problem.
So
too.
that was another big thing when we were designing this initially. Is like, so I mean, and at this point we were literally just looking at Steam reviews and being like, okay, like what, like on a more meta level, like why do you get a situation where someone's like game is terrible, 400 hours played? But like what leads to that? You know what I mean? And honestly, we're like one of the big problems is like there isn't an obvious point to stop, and like eventually any end game is going to get boring eventually, right? And if like you didn't have a point of like you felt like you were done, like if you've got a place to leave, then you're gonna then the game's gonna eventually suck for you. So like we have to be like, we want to actually get you to feel like you're done, and part of the way that you do that is you add more objectives that like have progress bars where like you finish them and then you're like, okay, I'm done with this now. And so whether or not you want to do all of them or not, the key thing is that there is a point where you finish the fortress, you've got all the points there, and like there's progress bars, and like there is a point where you do, you finish the league, there is a point where you finish all of the other league mechanics around, and then and then there's, for other people there's challenges, right? Like part of the reason we wanted to add challenges in this one was to see like there's quite a lot of people who just like the thing that their goal for the league is finish the challenges and then I'm done with it, and so it's like it's just another one of those things that PoE 1 had that can give you an objective for yourself so that you know when to quit, because ultimately the goal is like we want you to play when you have a great time, but we want when you decide to leave that you come back with a plan to play again next league. And so long as we can get you to that point without burning you out, then you're going to be wanting to come back and play again. So it's like that. It's just one of those really important things that PoE 2 just didn't really have, because it just kind of petered out into like into nothingness. It didn't really have like this. I'm done with this now.
Ultimately, it's just about having cool core goals.
Exactly.
Like, and then you've got nice clear goals for that now. It's probably like Fortress plus like a specific league mechanic.
Or maybe you want to do all of them, or maybe you don't. But the key thing is like you get to that point, when you're done with it, and we've got those progress bars that can pop out the side, so you can sort of see at a glance, like here is my like end game completion of like how much of that stuff they've done. And you also know, by the way, that when you do finish that progress bar, that you have seen all the major content that the league has to offer in terms of like you fought the pinnacle boss, and there's more uniques you could get and more things you could farm, but like that stuff is really extra stuff. It isn't really the core of the experience of that. So that's part of what we want to do.
And at the same time, for the people who never quit, the infinite atlas.
Of course, we want to make sure that stuff is better. Of course, but like at the end of the day, like it is still important that
infinite atlas significantly better.
Well, it is way better. Yeah.
Way more chase drops to get. And mage blood. Like it's so much more crafting that you might want to min max. Like there's just a ton. And you could be like, I'm gonna go farm the land. The not ocean. Okay. You're gonna go
farming mechanic confirmed. Is that what we're talking about?
You're gonna go farm the infinite land.
Time to retire down to a nice life of farming.
And then the next day, I'm gonna go explore the ocean and just logbook, and do all of those. Like different choices, different axes. That's also important and cool. I'm gonna go do breach this day, and the next day I'm gonna do delirium, and the next day I'm gonna mix them all.
it seems super easy to change like whatever it is you want to do if you want to mix and match now. So if you are focusing on expedition, like there's nothing now to stop you from going and focusing on breach for a while instead. Right?
And of course the fate of the Vile Temple, right? Like it actually is unique amongst the others in that it doesn't have an Atlas active mechanic because the temple is its own whole building a dungeon vibe, and so it still is a tree. It still appears in maps. It has a tablet. All of that. But you know, instead of now like doing the progression on the Atlas, the meta progression layer, you're doing it in the temple, right? Just with less snakes.
Excellent. And the new Atlas tree design supports this idea as well, where this core full tree is like a full completion thing, which is cool, but also like your initial reaction to that might be to kind of like worry that, oh, it seems like it kind of removes some player decision. Yeah. We have some specific things.
So that is something we're really worried about, and but I'll explain also why we did it in the first place. So we had this problem where designing the Atlas in a way where you don't want to constantly respec really handcuffs you in terms of what kind of nodes you can add. Because if you want to add a node, which is like, oh, this cool thing happens when you're in forests, it's like, well, now if you're not in a forest, you're like, it's a waste of a point, right? Yeah. So effectively, by doing full allocation, you can now say, okay, well, I'm not wasting any points. Like they do different things at different locations, and it means that we can just be more interesting with the bonuses.
And they can be way punchier.
Yeah.
Because we're not like worrying about so much about the balance of that. So then when you're doing your initial progression, when you're picking stuff, it's more about like, you know, what stuff do I want now versus later. But the issue with that is you can't add difficulty if you've got a full tree. So we're like, and you still wanted the idea of having a build for your character. So then we're like, okay, we're going to solve this in two ways. One of the ways is we're going to add multi-choice nodes to the regular Atlas tree, so that those ones can be like, am I going to go difficulty, or am I going to go like more difficulty, more rewards, or am I going to go less difficulty, less rewards? So that example in the stream of like, okay, for shrines, like, do I want the shrines to go on the bosses, which is going to make it so that they're harder with more rewards? Do I want to make it so that when I go into a boss fight, I get an extra shrine effect, thus making the bosses easier? So you've kind of got that tweaking you can do. And so on the regular Atlas tree, you'll find things like that where the design space there is that they're decisions that you're going to want to make, but not very often, right? Yep. So it's like, you know, as my character gets more powerful, maybe I'll flick that node from one mode to the other, but it's not something that you're going to be changing all the time. So that's that design space. But then for the Atlas Masters, this is the design space of things that I do want to change all the time, because it depends on what like maps I'm facing. But then we make it really easy to change because we've got that system where you just a button on the side, you just pick which one.
Yep.
So what that's actually most close to in a way is kind of like the Jesus Christ, I've forgotten the name of these. You know, you pick the modes when you run a map in PoE1. What do you call that again? There was the Zara thing for
like Exarch and
Eater. Yeah, the influence.
Okay, yeah, that thing. Yeah, exactly, right. So it's Jesus Christ, I can't remember any more of the names of the shit. Yeah, it's kind of more analogous to that in a way, because it's like before each map you might want to consider what you're picking, and like depending on what it is that you're doing there. So that's that design space, and so those things together. But that thing there also has like, you know, like the choices that you're going to make. Your sort of Atlas build comes out.
They're kind of like your Atlas build loadouts.
Yeah.
But with pre-configured nodes as opposed.
And way better than that, because like if you want to respec one of those, it's only a couple nodes,
exactly.
and you can do that freely.
Yes, exactly. So it's no longer but by making that not be on the giant Atlas, it actually simplifies that quite a lot in terms of being able to see that. So like at a glance, you can see like here's the choices that are important, as opposed to like the million other little nodes that kind of don't really matter in practice.
So nice not having also just like I suspect from a more player who's like you know, approaching it for the first time as well, just way less FOMO, way less like, oh my god, I don't know, do I go this way, that way, I don't know what to do. And there's still choice of how you get there, but even with the masters and stuff, that you don't have to have all these respec systems with different currencies and gold costs, and then they're too cheap and not too cheap and all of that, and yet there's still builds, like there's still Atlas strategies, there's what tablets you're doing, what multi-choice you've taken on your league trees, there's I mean, even just what league you're running is in itself a build. Like, I guess you have this kind of like, you could be, it's more of a meta strategy, but you'd be like, I'm going for forest biomes because this league with these nodes on the Atlas tree equals, you know, some certain benefit when combined with Delirium. And then you could be even doing things like, as I said, all the multi-choice. Maybe you run this master when fighting bosses, and this master when fighting or when boss chasing, this master when doing certain leagues of others, this master while logbooking. There's just like all kinds of stuff where it's like, okay, so you'd think by having the tree be fully allocation, you're like, oh, there's no builds anymore, and then it's like, hold on, there's a lot of stuff.
But effectively, the complexity there has been moved into a much more tight place where you can sort of
Yeah,
do all
so
of
much
that in
more
one
manageable.
go. So it's just a lot more manageable and
Yeah.
it feels a lot better, I think.
What's the deal with like the sub trees within each master? Because they each have 3 tabs, don't they? Is that right?
No. So each of those tabs is a master.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, yeah. So like one master is one of those tabs, and then you pick like the things you want for that master. But then when you
okay.
change to a different master, that's like that's the choice of master you're making for that map.
Right. Okay.
yeah.
And it's just whatever master you have that's selected is the one that's active.
Is the one that's active, yes,
And that's-
exactly.
yeah,
So it's
that's
really
bad.
Each has the 4 rows, which is their quest line unlocks. Each
Yeah.
unlocks
So, yeah.
1 row and 1
Yeah.
point. You can take all of 1 row, or you can take 1 of each row.
Oh, okay.
They're just all
wow.
kind of keystone-y things that.
Didn't realize that, yeah.
So there's a lot of, even within that, there's obviously a ton of permutations of things you could do. So.
Yeah, right. So we've got our Atlas Ascendancies and all of that lined out. So the kind of like the equivalent to your, I don't know, your Tier 16 plus endgame juicing now is like go do the fortress, maybe complete like the couple leagues that you're going to focus on, get your masters done. So they have their quests. I guess they appear kind of like at certain points when you discover
Those
certain
ones
things.
are like, so for example, you've got Hilda who's like sending you to kill like bosses.
Yeah.
She'll pick maps that are like a few maps away from the map you just did as like the place where she's going to set her objective. So then it's kind of like you can kind of do that like while you're doing other things, because like there's you do have to visit her campsite first to like get to get her. So there's like a place like right really near the starting point where that is. But like that's like then her mission can kind of be completed as you're doing other things. Whereas like other ones have kind of like they're a little bit different.
Well, Doriani's tracking down the corruption.
Yeah.
the
So
corruption
effectively,
biomes.
that quest of what you had as like the quest before is now just like Doriani's like master quest.
It's his side quest
Yeah,
kind of thing now.
and the places where the corruption biomes are is like hard. Like in the starting zone, we've put them in like specific places so you
Yeah,
can questify going
fixed.
to them. Like
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Doriani can be like, "I'll go to this one and then go to that one," and so on. So like we've kind of got that stuff that so his quest line is kind of that.
Seeing Doriani's quest kind of like minified into his little master thing now makes it seem like it'd be pretty easy for you to in the future make other leagues into masters like that as well.
Yeah,
That
they
was
can
what
be.
I was going to say next.
Yeah, yeah.
I was immediately like, someone who's looking at this damn well knows we're going to be adding more
Yep,
of
there's
these.
going to be more of them for sure.
Effectively, more Atlas classes get added over time based
Yeah.
on different new themes. Like, because
Yeah.
we've tried to have, Jado, Order of the Jinn, their whole thing is like, getting powerful artifacts out of the hands of the villains,
Yeah.
and so you get a vibe there about what the types of nodes could be or should be, where you've got Doriani, who's like a powerful thaumaturge scientist, so you can get, you have all these different characters, and you have just the classic, I want to kill bosses, Hilda, who's just trying to like kill powerful beasts, and so you immediately can go, okay, well, not that this is confirmed, I'm literally making this up as we go, but it's like, well, you got Pharaoh, who's the rune seeker, trying to learn blue shapes.
Could be a
Maybe
master.
that's a master when he's
Yeah,
not, if it's
true.
core or not core, depending on how things go.
Yeah, or it goes on the Atlas is a big thing. Like you've got
Yeah.
these options now for how to integrate things, which as exciting as this is to play now, I'm excited for the future of this as well, because it seems like
Could be a lot more.
it's much easier to see
I mean,
how it expands.
we designed more than the masters that we're even putting in here. We just didn't get time to do them.
Yeah.
Like we had some
Crazy.
ideas there.
So towers still kind of exist scattered around, and does the Grand Project still exist as the way to kind of like teleport after you've done a tower?
It does. How does that work now? It works some way. There's a bit of a change. Not to like nerf it, it's just like there's a way about how it needs to work that I can't remember the exact specifics of, but yes, ultimately, yes, it does.
Excellent. Okay. Have you guys ever considered like just making towers work like that in general? I kind of love that thing.
Maybe.
Maybe. Might help with some of the discussions around. I know you're a big fan of like having nice variety in the Atlas, and certainly it's going to be a lot of that, because if you're doing like one of those breach areas, you're going to be like doing a variety of maps in them. But for some people, they want to just avoid certain layouts ultimately if they can. And so in a way, like you can path around maps a lot of the time. I guess Grand Project is one of those ways that you can kind of dodge those things too. So something worth considering. Has there been any look at layouts for maps for like unliked layouts?
There's
perhaps?
always some of that work that's been done. I'm not entirely sure how much of it there's here, but there's definitely some. There's also a bunch of new maps, just new maps in the pool as well. There's always work on layout stuff, and they address that stuff typically. Just like the level design team just tends to sort of address that sort of stuff.
Just always
over
happening in the
time, like
background.
just happening in the background. They're just adjusting things. But that being said, I don't want people to believe that we're just going to devolve into just like every map is just a simple layout without any like resistance at all. There does need to, on some level, be some maps that are just like have like. maps should have some level of identity, and like I wouldn't want to just erase it all and just turn into a pile
all
of slop,
gorgeous all day.
Exactly, you know what I mean? So like that, like I don't want people to think that it's like, oh yeah, everything will eventually just become like a freaking circle or something. Like you do want to have some level of interest.
You want some interaction with some maps are better with certain leagues than others,
Yeah,
and
that kind
others,
of thing.
different things like that. So,
But yeah, obviously if there's maps that are just like nobody likes, like not a single person is ever keen to run ever, then we might want to consider changing that.
Well, you did get rid of the slow levers in Augury, so thanks to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Rogue Exiles are a fun idea, and there's some cool things for them here, where you've got this like nemesis system where they can come back and hunt you down. It's the patent's expired on that. It's okay, we're safe. But have Exiles been made more substantial in general? Because they kind of pushovers, like
yeah.
to make that a bit juicier. Excellent, great. I'm glad, because I was like very excited for them, but they were like, they're kind of lame. So that's good to hear. Co-op progression, I had like grim expectations for how co-op progression would work with this, but you've reassured me that it seems like co-op works well here.
So the way that it works basically is that for the fixed part of the Atlas, when you complete a map that would give you something like a passive point or something like that, it actually completes it for everyone. And because the layout is fixed for the parts of the Atlas that are important for quest stuff, it means that, effectively you can all progress and co-op the Atlases at the same time. So you don't have to worry about that part. But as soon as you're in the infinite farm area, now you're effectively working on your own Atlases just like how you were before. Some
don't, and I'll give some examples, because, so the general just random map that gives, gives a passive point. It completes for everyone. Now, if that's disconnected, like let's say I've been mapping and you join me on day 2, and now I'm just completing maps, you will have a disconnected set of completed maps. Right. You cannot path from those. They have to be connected to your home to be a path. So you still got a path there, right? But they are completed for you.
Oh, interesting.
So once you connect it up, you can skip over them. But the other thing is that... let's say you get to the Delirium tree, you get to the hub, you do some of the maps with Delirium, those will complete in multiplayer. But then you get to the Grand Mirror. That one does not complete in multiplayer, because it applies a thing to your Atlas that, if it were to just complete, would rob one of those players out of some sort of either quest or meta progression, which ultimately yields a reward. So some maps shouldn't complete in multiplayer, because then you have to split up, you have to run them each in your own, and then you apply your own miss to your own Atlas. And then you can run all those, and those will complete together.
Well, the flip side of that is that the entire party gets to go around and do everyone's pinnacle boss, I suppose, at that point.
Correct. Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, some do, some don't. We're just...
But almost all do. It's just a few cases where we needed to make sure.
It's judgment calls where we don't want to rob you out of rewards, right? Yeah. Like, because you happen to be playing in a group and you're like, damn it, we should have split up. Or I should have left the instance before you did that so that I got it twice, We're trying to make it that's not... just stealing loot from you.
We've got some kind of rapid fire random chat questions here mixed in. Some people have been asking about like the portals for maps. So like the portal restriction, 1 portal for 6 modifier maps. Is that something you're like looking at or reevaluating, or how do you feel about that change now at this point?
There was some discussion with it.
I think we now have it be -1 portal per 2 modifiers.
Oh, what's
but wasn't there something where the tablets did something as well?
Oh my god, I don't remember.
I can't remember. There was some change here.
Oh, this is actually... I wasn't expecting
there was a change here. I just...
We've changed some stuff, but the whole thing of like, we don't want you to run 5 mod maps all the time because like just of an happenstance of dying. Like, we've done some stuff around this. Maybe we undid that though, because now we have like Atlas nodes and the master for additional revives.
There was something about that though. I feel like we did something in... There is an Atlas node that gives you an extra...
we have the master for an extra revive.
Oh, the master does it? Okay, right.
Okay.
There was something here, I just don't quite remember.
We have one that removes all the revives.
That's often what's mentioned is like people are like, 1 portal just feels like, oh man, like some BS gets me, and I'm like...
We are doing things around it. I just can't remember exactly which decision we landed on. But we did show it. We did show... Well, at least, I don't know if we put it in here, but on the, I think on the website when you're looking at the announcement page, there's a few nodes on there that you can open. One of them is an additional revive.
Oh, great!
So it's like you could at least turn that on if you're running a certain class. But I think we have some ways to do this now. But I can't remember how much we baked into the inherent behavior versus just putting via the tree and or masters, because we went through like 5 iterations here.
Yep. There's a question for Ascendancy trials. So I guess there's two questions here. One is Trial of the Ancestors, or the third mystery.
The third one's not in this expansion.
No, but
a little bit too much content to do.
But I assume that's one of those things that you want to have absolutely in and good for launch. And I guess the second question is the existing ones. Is there any kind of plans to improve them?
We do want to improve them. They're not good enough, but we didn't get time this time. There's a lot that needs to happen.
But all three of those are on the cards for before 0. Before 1.0
should be. But look, I wouldn't want anything. Put it this way: anything that's in the game right now, I don't want anything that's in the game to be bad at 1.0. So certainly, I would want to fix those other two trials before we get to 1.0.
Nice.
The third one, I want to get it in for 1.0. We'll have to see how that goes.
I would say that's a coin flip.
Yeah. It's there's quite a lot to do there to make that good.
Doing that would compromise something else. It would, 100%, and I don't think we will.
Fingers crossed for you. I'm very excited to see this mystery third trial.
Might be afterwards, but it's really hard to say. Of course, it just depends. See how things go. But the other two, we had a plan for. We were like, we're going to fix everything in the end game, and those two were on our cards as well. Because technically we want to improve the in-game farmability of them as well.
In particular, they're not really they're not something players really play in the in-game that much. We want to improve that. We want to get that to be a thing that's like a viable league, as it were.
Yeah, you want it to stand alongside these other in-game mechanics as a thing that you actually want to do.
We wanted to do the core Atlas stuff first, and then because we were like, okay, we can't do this and this and this and this, and we did that, and then the and this kind of tapered off, and those were two things we're like, let's do those in a separate patch, a separate time, and give them the justice
you might
they
have
need.
tried to do too much at once here, but you guys seem to like doing that anyway. One kind of fun topic for us here is bosses. I cannot overlook bosses. It's always one of my favorite things, and you guys are getting a little bit cracked with bosses. They're getting crazier and crazier. I've seen like a bit more than I think what was teased in some of these boss fights. And they're unhinged. So I guess my first question is, who is each of your favorite of the new bosses? Because there's 15 new bosses or something?
I reckon just conceptually that the one that's the ritual one,
the big freaky Bodak.
The Bodak under the ground is just like really cool. The light, like just with the darkness and the
beams on that thing.
Just and it's just like it's just really cool. Just like conceptually, as I said, like with the way that I don't know how much to spoil about that, but like the way that you bring in some entities to help you with that, and like it reveals the playing with the mechanic of the light and all that sort of stuff. Like it's just pretty cool.
The tale of light versus darkness.
Exactly. So that's just a really cool one.
Favorite. I never pick favorites. They're all.
You must pick a favorite of your children. Go on. Which child do you love more than the
Miller?
Miller.
I mean, that delirium boss is.
I mean, it's good. Finally, having the is that spoilery?
Go on.
It's good having the strange voice has a thing now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He's not so strange after all. Or he's more strange, I guess. One of the two. Anyway, but like it's nice that from a Delirium's been in PoE 1 for so long. So it's like holy, it's been this long till we got a new pinnacle out of Delirium. But in the same sense, so is Ritual, and honestly, it doesn't really have any of the way of bosses in anything really so much. And at some point, King in the Mist became it, but that honestly wasn't. That came with the Affliction League, and so it's like this.
He's just a little guy.
It's just interesting, finally getting some new capstones to some of these stories that have been around for like a decade. Which I think is real cool. And honestly, it's just nice to be able to rip like the King in the Mist. Come on, you fight him in Act 1.
I know he went from being like a pinnacle boss to a campaign boss. Now it's so good. Like, your bar has elevated that much.
And then you get it again, and you're like Pinnacle of Ritual, and it's King in the Mist again. And didn't they kill this guy in the first act of the game?
He's a slide boss.
He's got a new skill. It's like it's just not good enough at all. Obviously, it's more than I'm underselling it, but it is clearly just not good enough. And so I wanted to be more, ancient with it, more, primordial with it, like things that are just beyond your comprehension of power, and just like, holy, we're on a
couple of them look a bit mind-bending in that regard.
but not also just like,
OP human, you know? Those are cool. You know, like technically Tang Mizu is just a OP human.
Yeah.
You know, and there's such a cool little storyline there, and you know, people. I can't wait for people to see that, because there's actually a cool story link between Ritual and Delirium. Not that mechanically they're overlapped,
yeah.
and you get to see, you know, some of the origins of how he came to be who he is, and you know, you might feel a little bit sympathetic for him, or you're just like, nah, I don't like you. You just make me see crazy demons and stuff. Or maybe you're like, I love that you make me see crazy demons and stuff. I don't know, but I just love all of that. Like, I like that we're finally putting a bow on some of these things, finally getting to the end of these. Well, I wouldn't even say it's the end, right? Like, it could be the beginning of something new as well. Like, that's the whole point is, but
something you'd be a bit more proud of, absolutely.
100%. It's like, oh, it's a bit sad that just that Olroth guy, that, you know, who as a character is cool, but as a, you know, boss fight, it's just, it was clearly just a rip from PoE 1, and, you know, it's like, here's this new thing in PoE 2 with this new epic new how we make bosses has obviously evolved over so long, and we're just taking this thing from several years ago and it's just the pinnacle, and sure, we redid the effects and gave it a fresh coat of paint, but it's just not the justice they deserved. And so
yeah, that's I would love like a mini documentary, honestly, on like the process of how you make a boss now. Like, how does it actually go? Like, how do you get from like the original concept or whatever to the boss now that has like 40 skills and is crazy?
There's kind of a few ways. Sometimes where it can be driven from 3 points. One can just be purely like narrative, let's see what we can come up with. Like, the campaign is way more narratively driven design of bosses.
Right.
Like, we kind of know who is going to be the final boss and story before we develop the boss, and thus then it goes to concept and through the art pipeline. That's probably a more standard pipeline. But honestly, I would say a good half the bosses, and for example, and you're not going to know this, and it almost undersells it in a way, but the Expedition Pinnacle boss, like the Runes of Aldur Pinnacle boss, right? That, which some people saw some silhouettes of and whatnot, but that thing is like this giant, massive, horrific creature that's just like, you know, resembling a spider, and you know, that was initially just a random mini boss in Act 5 that we were going to do.
Yeah,
and the area kind of evolved to the point where that boss didn't fit anymore. And so we were like,
well, whenever we're looking at we're doing league design, we're often looking at some of the assets that we've got around, and then like it can actually inspire design for some of the stories as well.
Yeah, you like look at this cool
So we
thing,
sort of look at this thing, we're like,
yeah.
oh man, like what if we looked at the mix between, what if Verisium and Corruption were to come together and mix, and like what that would sort of result in. Like, you see this thing, oh, maybe that could be, and then once you've got that, you're like, okay, maybe if we change this model to kind of be more in line with that, we can then like, you know, like look at this and be like, okay, like, and sort of create something. So having those constraints when you're designing a story, and then like seeing like some other stuff can actually really inspire quite a lot of creativity as far as like designing the storyline as well is concerned.
You go back and we're like, you know, like, partly it's also like it's too epic for this just random Act 5 area that's like an in-between, you know? It's not a key story boss, I guess is what I'd call it. And not that those shouldn't be epic, but then you take it and you're like, all right, let's make the limbs out of Verisium, let's add this, let's add this, add some magical power, we can do this blue glow here, add some more flesh, and by the way, and then we tell the modelers, like, by the way, we're going to 3x the scale of it, and they're like, oh geez, the resolution of the textures might not hold up. So they're like, you know, there's all kinds of stuff like that where we have to do, and then all of a sudden you've got this like, and obviously when you make something that big, you have to, if it's already animated, you probably have to reanimate it, right? Because the way it will move needs to be different.
Big things move slow.
Correct. Especially if you want some telegraphing that matters. So, you know, it helps. But honestly, the way it comes about can just be honestly just out of nowhere. You just have this thing and you take it from somewhere else. You have the narrative driven. And other times you just have like, I mean, our artists are just working on stuff. Like, normally we're very, very reactive to player demand for what they want from mechanics and balance and stuff like that. We try to be. And so we don't generally design leagues significantly ahead, right? And generally, honestly, we do not know the next league. Just, we've said this many times before. We do not know it. So, but obviously you need time for the artist to produce all that art. And so
they're just making stuff.
They're just in there making cool stuff.
They're just making lots and lots of cool stuff. And it can be sometimes we have a mechanic we want and we want art to support it. So we look through our library of just ruckus and we find something that fits. Or sometimes we're like, damn, we're like struggling to come up with a theme for a league here. We look through and we're like, oh, what do we do? All this, and this is the boss and this is that. And then we just piece some stuff together, bit of retexturing, maybe some, and it just can come together in that regard as well. And so we have this just insane backlog library of art constantly being made for stuff that we don't necessarily know. And sometimes they give some direction. Like, for example, I know, and Jonathan's mentioned it, we are going to do Delve again at some point, right? So that's as soon as I hear that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell the concept artists, the character artists, and sometimes even the environment artists. It's just like, we are going to do this at some point. Make sure it's there. Make sure we're experimenting and thinking about what does it look like. Who is now all of the Crystal Knight, or maybe his friends, or his siblings, or his father, or his you just start expanding and just let them start coming up with the real epic stuff, and then it's like, what does the underground now look like? Are we still, they might want to experiment with things that's like, do we want to change how Azurite is represented, because it might just look like Verisium now, and stuff like that. So we kind of have just stuff like that going, where it's sometimes directed, sometimes completely undirected, just going constantly. And it just allows us to just really quickly then just grab some stuff out of the hat and chuck it in and start, assign it to either a mechanic or a theme, and just unify those three threads, which is the art, the mechanics, and the narrative, which, either can come first is kind of the thing. Either could be the chicken or the egg, and it's kind of awesome, and it allows us to just be like real fast.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you guys are absolutely cooking with this. Can't wait to check some of it out. We do unfortunately have to wait a little while, but I suppose you might have a few teasers and things like that for us over the next couple of weeks to help make things worse, maybe, while we agonize over this wait. But very much looking forward to it. Thank you both for the extended amount of time for a very large Q&A.
It's been a good one. Awesome. Flew by.
Yeah. Flew by. It was good stuff. I enjoyed this
first intermission.
First intermission. Walker of the league, right?
Very excited.
I couldn't make it. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you on launch.